Chapter 5609. He said that he had to give his son a scare. Sob, sob, sob. If he wanted to trick his son, could he not involve a small fry like him? He knew that he would not be able to fool this smart little brat. Indeed, in less than 3 minutes, he was about to be exposed. Go Leftover tried his best to keep his expression unchanged, and said as fast as he could, "Child, look at Uncle. I knew that liars would not have a good ending. The reason why the hair on my head is black and withered is because after I cheated yesterday, the heavenly Tao punished me, and I was struck by lightning 18 times. It was not easy to keep my life. Uncle, it's too late for regrets." "Baby Mo," Lord Guangguang said, "liar. There was no thunder at all yesterday." The group of little radishes also nodded, expressing their doubts. They weren't deaf. How could they not know about the lightning punishment from the heavens? Go Leftover hugged Baby Mo's leg and cried, "It's true. Believe me. Then, the lightning punishment will hit me alone, and I will be covered in a cover." Then sob, 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 sob. He cried miserably. "It was especially cruel and struck me alone." Baby Mo, no matter how he looked at it, why did he feel that this person in front of him was crying and screaming fake? Even his experience felt fake. "You're lying to me." Little Mo Xiao stared at this person sharply. "No, no. Every word I said came from the bottom of my heart. It's all true. Then where are my materials?" "Yes, quickly return the 30 over materials to Mo Xiao." Go Leftover cried and wailed. "Little ancestors, after the lightning strike yesterday, all the materials in my inner world were sob, sob, sob. They were all struck by the heavenly Tao." Baby Mo's eyebrows twitched. Lord Guangguang opened his mouth slightly. "It can't be. The heavenly Tao struck your inner world? This is not true." Go Leftover did not dare to hide and answered honestly. It just struck all the savings that I had accumulated for a long time. All of them were struck away." Baby Mo immediately understood, and patted Go Leftover's face comfortingly. "It's been hard on you. You must have been robbed by my mother. Everyone, Go Leftover. Madam Mo, come out, come out. I already said that your son is not easy to fool. Why did you make me suffer so much? You're so pitiful." Lord Guangguang expressed his sympathy. No matter how he looked at it, why did he feel that the person in front of him was crying and screaming fake? Even his experience felt fake? "You're lying to me." Mo Xiao stared sharply at this person. "No, no. Every word I said came from the bottom of my heart. It's all true. What about my materials?" "That's right. Hurry up and return Mo Xiao's 30+ materials." Goshen cried and wailed. "Dear little ancestors, after yesterday's lightning strike, all of the materials in my inner world were woo-woo. They were all struck by the heavenly Tao." Baby Mo's eyebrows twitched. Lord Guangguang's mouth opened slightly. "No way. The heavenly Tao destroyed your inner world. This is not the case." Goshen didn't dare to hide anything and answered honestly. That is that all of the savings this one had accumulated for a long time, all of it gone." Baby Mo immediately understood and patted Goshen's face comfortingly. "It's been hard on you. You must have been robbed by my mother. Everyone, Goshen. Madam Mo, come out, come out. I already said that your son is not easy to fool. Why did you make me suffer so much? You're so pitiful." Lord Guangguang expressed his sympathy. Chapter 5610. The group of little kids watched as Goshen left pitifully, and their little faces involuntarily hung a few traces of sighs. This person looked quite pitiful. His back was bleak and desolate, looking somewhat miserable and miserable. Sigh. The children heaved a long sigh and silently glanced at each other. "Then let's all return home," Baby Mo suggested. The children nodded one after another, saying their goodbyes, and each returned home to find their mothers. Little classmate Mo Xiao sighed softly. "Mother is too bad." Yeah, stoic mother is really bad. She clearly already helped us and brought back the materials, but she didn't tell us. She even let that uncle act out a farce and pretend to be struck by the heavenly law. What does stoic mother want to do? Lord Guangguang said angrily. "Mother just wants us to know. Swindlers don't have a good ending. Swindlers will be beaten by Grandpa Heavenly Law." Lord Guangguang's eyes widened in astonishment, and he exclaimed exaggeratedly, "Stoic mother is too ridiculous. Does she think we're 3-year-old children? How could this kind of thing deceive us? Baby Emo nodded with a dazed expression. We're not 3-year-old children anymore. This kind of thing, just use your brain and you'll know. The two chatted as they walked. When they returned to the bamboo house, they even deliberately looked at each other and helped each other adjust their collars. You look all right. Amen. It doesn't look like you hit Gosheng. I didn't hit him. Baby Emo tightened the belt around his waist. I just stepped on him twice. Who told that guy to lie on the ground, without any moral integrity, and grab his robe? The two children stepped into the bamboo garden's courtyard at the same time, and they called out, "We're back." The one who warmly welcomed them was little friend Fu Yin. This guy had just woken up, and he hurriedly ran towards Baby Emo with his short legs. Big brother, did you run into that swindler grandpa today? Did you ask for all your things back? Baby Emo expressionlessly held his small hand. You might not believe me when I say this. We ran into that person on the way home after school today. Little Yin, you didn't see that person's miserable appearance. If you saw it, you would definitely feel that he was very miserable. Little Fu Yin followed his big brother and asked, You beat him up, didn't you? Big brother is the most powerful. That old grandpa is definitely not your match. Did the old man cry after that? Lord Guangguang and Baby Emo nodded in unison. Of course he cried, but he's not an old grandpa, he's a young man. Oh no, he changed his appearance to deceive us. Wah, big brother, you guys made a big guy cry. He's a swindler, so of course we have to beat him. Lord Guangguang said with conviction. When they looked up, they saw Arbor walking over expressionlessly. He glanced at them and asked, Why are you back so late? Mother. Baby Emo pounced forward and hugged her leg. Mother, hug me. Don't think that you can fool your mother by acting cute. The stoic expressionlessly bent down to pick up his son and asked while holding him in his arms. I heard you ran into yesterday's swindler on the way? Baby Emo nodded vigorously. Amen. How was it a coincidence? Wasn't that swindler personally escorted by his mother? What did you guys talk about? Arbor pretended not to know about this and asked. Chapter 56:11. Nothing much. It's just that the swindler was struck by lightning a bit miserably. We comforted him. Arbor coughed lightly. Tell me what you think. You absolutely can't cheat in the future. Sir Guangguang nodded fiercely. Right, cheating doesn't have a good ending. Not only will you be struck by lightning, everything in your inner world will also be destroyed. Arbor nodded. Then how did you comfort that swindler? We beat him up. Arbor, is this your way of comforting people? Mommy. Baby Mo's little head burrowed into her embrace. Little Furball loves Mommy the most. Mommy treats little Furball the best. What do you mean? Mommy, don't be embarrassed. I already know everything. You robbed that uncle yesterday. The stoic mother looked at her son expressionlessly. No. Baby Emo blinked. I already beat the uncle until he told me the truth. Arbor. This son seemed to be a bit difficult to handle. Husband. She immediately thought of her son's father. He was the most suitable person to discipline her son. Emo Lien was currently boiling soup in the room. When he heard his wife's roar, he hurriedly ran out with a soup ladle. Wife, what's the matter? Arbor walked up and stuffed his son into his hands. Discipline your son. He didn't want to continue talking to him. Just looking at him was annoying. What did you do? Emo Lien held his son with one hand and lowered her head to glance at him. Baby Emo said aggrievedly. I exposed some of Mommy's little tricks, and she flew into a rage out of humiliation. What did you expose? Mommy robbed that swindler from yesterday, and even had the swindler trick me. She said it was the one who was struck by lightning. Daddy, I already beat the uncle until he told me the truth. Mommy can't lie to me. Baby Emo puffed up his cheeks. She clearly already robbed him clean, but she still insisted that it was the heavenly law's punishment, and that lightning struck the uncle's inner world. Does Mommy want to steal little Furball's yellow-grade materials? Emolien slapped his butt. Those materials aren't yours. It's all your mom's fault. Baby Emo looked at his father pitifully. He was really a pitiful little guy who was not loved by his parents. Emolien picked him up and walked a few steps before throwing him to Venerable Peach Blossom. who had just walked in. He then returned to his room to continue cooking soup to coax his wife. The little doll lay in Ma Shirchin's arms and said pitifully, "Uncle Peach Blossom, I'm penniless." Revered Peach Blossom acted as if he was hugging a hot potato. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he said, "You are the richest child in the world. Don't cry about being poor in front of your uncle. I don't have money to give you." Baby Emo raises his head in melancholy and gives a long sigh. "My assets have all been confiscated by mother. In the future, I'm destined to be a person without a single cent of wealth. I won't even be able to marry a wife in the future. Venerable Peach Blossom God, you're still so young, yet you're already thinking about getting a wife. Why did I think of my wife? Look at my father and mother. They're together. It's 2 against 1. And I'm the one who's at an absolute disadvantage. If I find a wife, won't it be 2 against 2? Venerable Peach Blossom couldn't bear to hurt him, but he still couldn't help but say, "Why don't you think about it? Maybe it's 3 against 1? Baby Mo's mouth gaped open in shock. After a while he exclaimed, "It can't be that tragic, right?" Chapter 56:12. Didn't I say we couldn't fool that imp? The husband and wife were hiding in the room and chatting while eating a pot of fish soup. That guy wasn't boasting at all yesterday. He said he couldn't last more than 3 minutes in his son's hands. Emo Lien picked up a piece of fish for his wife and giggled. I reckon he wouldn't even last a minute before he exposed himself. Arbor blew on the scalding fish and sent it into his mouth with a sigh. He's already so hard to fool at such a young age. When he grows up, he won't be able to fool anyone. That's true. Bam! Venerable Peach Blossom Divinity came over after smelling the fragrance and kicked open the door. He carried Baby Emo in one hand and grabbed Lord Guangguang in the other, as he boldly appeared at the door and hollered, "Great, you two! You actually hid in the room and ate fish soup without calling us. Mommy is bad, but Daddy is worse." Baby Emo wailed indignantly. Lord Guangguang waved his 2 small hands and also shouted, "Stoic mother and scoundrel father hid in the room and ate without calling us." Arbor calmly set down his chopsticks and waved his hand. "We're just tasting. If it's good, we'll cook it for you guys later." 1 adult and 2 children quickly ran over and took their bowls and chopsticks. He didn't stand on ceremony and directly scooped out the soup and picked up the fish. The fish was tender and delicious, and the bones melted in his mouth as if they were crispy. 3 pairs of eyes, 1 adult and 2 children, abruptly lit up. They were practically as bright as the stars. "There's more in the pot. You guys can slow down." Arbor exasperatedly glanced at the 3 of them. The big one and the 2 small ones ignored her, minding their own business as they ate. "Wow, Stoic Mother. This fish is even more delicious than the colorful divine fish. What is it?" "Don't know. I randomly fished it out from the Sea of Orchids." In less than a quarter of an hour, the whole pot of fish was eaten clean. In the end, not even a drop of soup was left. Arbor was a bit speechless and asked them, "Do you still want to eat?" The 3 heads nodded in unison. "Wait a bit. Wait until Duan Yu and the rest come out tonight." "Mother." Baby Emo ran to his mother's side and climbed onto her, rubbing his head against her chest. "The fish you cooked is so delicious. Little Dumpling likes it very much." His father couldn't help but glare at the back of his head. This fellow clearly knew that his father had worked hard to make this fish soup. Yet he turned around and flattered his mother. He was really a child that made people speechless. Arbor couldn't help but chuckle. He raised his hand to rub his son's head, but warned him, "You're not allowed to gamble tomorrow, okay?" Baby Emo nodded profusely, replying in a childish voice, "After seeing a ghost, wouldn't you be afraid of the dark?" "Mother, Xiao Tuanzi has been fooled once, and will never be fooled a second time." Xiaomu broke into laughter and poked her son's small head with her finger. "You're the clever one." The next day, early in the morning, the competition venue was already filled with people. Everyone had come early in the morning to reserve seats. It couldn't be helped. There were obviously more people watching the competition today than yesterday. After all, those idlers who were eliminated in the first round yesterday all had time to come and watch the subsequent matches today. 2 young men stood on the stage. Their robes were washed until they were white. It looked like they hadn't changed into new clothes for a long time. Baby Mo sat on Zhang Feng's shoulder, the burly man who resembled an iron tower. He shook his legs and exclaimed, "Wow! The two big brothers in this competition are too poor." Chapter 56:13. When the uncle on the left turned his head, Baby Mo could see an inconspicuous patch on the back of his neck. The people in the sacred sanctuary are all quite poor. Lord Guangguang expressed his opinion. Then, he suddenly realized that the people around him were staring at him, as if they wanted to eat him up. "Why are you staring at Lord Guangguang? Is what Lord Guangguang said not the truth?" The truth was that the people in the sacred sanctuary were all ridiculously poor. The sacred palace that was about to descend was probably because the heavenly axiom saw that the people in the sacred sanctuary were living too pitifully, so it gave them some benefits and supplements every other year. If not for the heavenly axiom daddy giving them some help from time to time, most of the people in the sacred sanctuary would have starved to death. The two people on the stage had already started fighting. Today's match was obviously more interesting than yesterday's. The two people on the stage exchanged punches, and as they fought, Baby Mo could not take his eyes off them. His eyes were watching, but his little brain was working non-stop. Standing in the uncle's position on the left, how should he neutralize the opponent's moves and counterattack? After analyzing the moves, Baby Mo stood in the uncle's position on the right and analyzed the opponent's moves again. After he finished analyzing, he thought to himself, "The uncle on the left is weak and unable to continue. I'm afraid he's going to lose." In the blink of an eye, the winner was decided. It was as Baby Mo had predicted. The little fellow was secretly pleased. When the second pair of opponents went on stage, he started to focus on watching, analyzing the moves of the two people. Then he said, "Wah, in less than 2 minutes, the one on the left is going to lose." As expected, not long after, the person whom Baby Mo had predicted to lose was stabbed in the thigh by his opponent and fell to the ground. After this happened a few times, the few people around him could not help but look at this little child in a new light. It was really amazing, wasn't it? This little child could not be so lucky every time to predict which one of the opponents would lose, right? A middle-aged woman beside him couldn't help but ask with a smile, "Kid, then guess who won and who lost between the two on the arena?" Baby Mo was also staring intently at the two people who had suddenly jumped onto the stage. This time, there was no need to analyze the moves. Baby Mo smiled and said, "Of course I know. The one on the left will win. Wasn't that obvious?" That unlucky guy on the right ran into his foster father, so it was impossible for him not to lose. As expected, as soon as he finished speaking, the other party was sent flying out at a speed comparable to that of light. Victory and defeat were decided in a single exchange. This time, the middle-aged woman was truly shocked, and she turned to stare at Baby Mo with a bewildered expression. "Child, you're actually able to discern the opponent's cultivation level? What realm did he see?" He was just taking advantage of the situation. Baby Mo pursed his lips and ignored the middle-aged woman. However, the other party kept sizing him up, as if he had developed a little interest in him. Seeing that he didn't speak, the middle-aged woman smiled kindly and asked, "Little friend, are you interested in becoming my disciple?" Master Guangguang couldn't help but turn to look at her. "You want to recommend yourself? To be little Furball's master?" The woman's face turned slightly red. That little rascal's gaze seemed to be saying, "You're overestimating yourself." Cough, indeed, with her strength, it seemed that she really wasn't qualified. However, she inexplicably wanted to try. Chapter 56:14. This little brat looked very talented. If it was possible, taking him in as a disciple would definitely not be a loss. With that in mind, the middle-aged woman put on a friendlier face. "Child, what's your name? Where do you live? Why don't I talk to your parents personally?" Lord Guangguang waved his hand. "Our little dumpling can make decisions for himself." The middle-aged woman couldn't help but smile. "All right then, child. Are you willing to take me as your master and become my disciple?" Baby Mo shook his head repeatedly. "I'm a disciple of the Holy Water Sect." "Holy Water Sect? That should be some sect from the lower realm." The woman chuckled. Silly child, that's a sect from the lower realm, right? Don't worry. You've already ascended to the saint level with your parents. If nothing unexpected happens, I won't be able to go back in this lifetime. Even if you don't think for yourself, you have to think for your parents. If you take me as your master, I guarantee that you will be able to do whatever you want in the saint realm. Thank you, Auntie. Baby Mo said seriously. I don't really want to walk sideways like a crab. I just want to walk normally. Lord Guangguang chuckled. The woman looked at him speechlessly. Child, I'm just making an analogy. Baby Mo patted his chest. Once a holy water sect disciple for a day, a holy water sect disciple for a lifetime. Sir Guangguang lowered his voice and whispered into his ear. Little dumpling, the holy water sect won't accept you at all. They don't accept male disciples. Who said so? Baby Mo rolled his eyes. You have to accept it even if you don't want to. I was already a holy water sect disciple when I was in my mother's womb. Who dares not to accept me? Sir Guangguang thought about it and felt that it made sense. So he nodded and said, That's true. The holy water sect simply can't reject the little dumpling. When the little dumpling was in the stoic mother's stomach, she was already a disciple of the holy water sect. So what the little dumpling said seemed to be very reasonable. The middle-aged woman frowned slightly. How about this? Let me talk to your parents. Since this child was so stubborn, it was better to look for his parents. Perhaps they would be able to persuade him. Sir Guangguang looked at the woman with a strange expression. Baby Mo sighed, not wanting to bother with her anymore. He turned to look at the pair of figures fighting in the arena. After so many battles, the atmosphere of the competition was very intense. Below the ring, the crowd of onlookers cheered and shouted, sometimes dancing and sometimes clapping their hands. Baby Mo reached out and patted Zhang Feng. Uncle, let's go over there and choose our opponents. The next round was Uncle Zhang's turn. Zhang Feng squeezed his way to the edge of the arena and saw that the 10 members of his group had already gathered. The judge held a small booklet and looked back and forth a few times. Let's begin. He repeated the designation 3 times before the team members were all arranged. Zhang Feng's opponent was an old man, who glanced over with a worried expression. Uncle's luck is not bad. Baby Mo patted Zhang Feng's shoulder. You will definitely win today. The little guy's mouth was really sharp. The following match between Zhang Feng and the old man was without suspense. Seeing this, the middle-aged woman became even more determined to take Baby Mo as her disciple. When Arbor walked over expressionlessly, he saw a middle-aged woman chatting up her son with a smile. But the 2 children didn't seem to want to talk to her. Mother. When Baby Mo saw his mother, he immediately floated over and landed in Arbor's arms. Chapter 56:15. Arbor was still under the effect of the transformation talisman. That middle-aged woman couldn't help but be inwardly astonished when she saw the child's ordinary appearance and figure a bit indescribable. How could such a mediocre woman give birth to such an exquisite and outstanding child? Daddy. The middle-aged woman looked up and saw a thin man walking over. His appearance was so ordinary that it wouldn't make a splash if he was thrown into the water. She couldn't help but be even more puzzled. The child's parents only had this kind of appearance. That was the karmic karma accumulated over several lifetimes for them to obtain such an intelligent, smart, beautiful, and adorable child. Arbor glanced at the middle-aged woman. What business do you have? The middle-aged woman deliberately put on a smile and tried to worm her way into being friends with Arbor. Madam, I intend to take your son as my disciple. How about we find a secluded place to sit down and have a good chat? Arbor was taken aback before waving his hand and saying, No need. Mother, I already told her that I have a master and that I'm a disciple of the Holy Water sect. But she just had to pull me along and talk nonsense. Baby Mo looked at his mother in distress and said, Sigh, it's also very vexing to have such a high aptitude. Even when I'm walking on the streets, I'll casually be pulled in as a disciple by others. The surrounding crowd couldn't help but be speechless when they heard this. This little brat was too arrogant and comical. How could he praise himself to this extent who knew that his mother would actually nod along with this child and say in full approval? Back then, Your grandmaster only took a fancy to mother because her aptitude was exceptionally outstanding. Sigh. I bitterly chased mother through 18 streets and all the way to the water boundary before I received her. Everyone, the mother and son, were the same. Blowing their own trumpet was a bit too much. The middle-aged woman smiled very awkwardly and could only place her hopes on that father who looked more normal. You're the child's father, right? I think. The father didn't wait for her to finish speaking and raised his hand to stop her from continuing to nag. Don't say any more. My son won't acknowledge you as his master. The middle-aged woman still wanted to persuade him. However, that father expressionlessly said, My son already acknowledged the heavenly law as his master when he was born. Everyone, why can't you just blink when you're talking big? The middle-aged woman's face instantly turned red. This couple was really funny. The child's future would be ruined if he followed them. Even if he looked down on her as a child's master, there was no need for him to bring up the heavenly Tao. You don't believe me? Emolian continued to look at her son expressionlessly. Son, try shouting. Emo Baobao blinked and jumped into his mother's arms. He shouted happily, Grandpa Heavenly Tao, if I call you, do you dare to throw a grenade at me? Boom. As soon as he finished speaking, the sound of rolling thunder exploded above Emolien's head. Emolien, that idiot, had long sensed it. He first raised the defensive thunder barrier and expressionlessly glanced at the mother and son. Arbor wanted to laugh. Her husband was really pitiful. For so many years, the heavenly Tao did not like the mother and son, so it struck her husband. Sometimes, it would even throw a grenade at you in the middle of the night. Her husband had been trained for a long time and was already fearless. Everyone was dumbstruck as they stared dumbfoundedly at that strange family of three. Did you see that? Emo Baobao said complacently. My master responded to me. The middle-aged woman's face was deathly pale as she nodded repeatedly. This time, she didn't dare to say anything more. She hurriedly withdrew from the crowd and ran away. Chapter 56:16. What else could she do if she didn't run? This child actually acknowledged the heavenly Tao as his master. This was really like seeing a ghost. If she didn't run, what if the heavenly Tao went crazy and struck a lightning bolt on her head? What could she do then? She could only cry as she went to meet her death. Not everyone could withstand a lightning bolt without batting an eyelid. From the looks of it now, that family of three was undoubtedly a weirdo. Watching the middle-aged woman run away like a wisp of smoke, Baby Emo looked at Arbor with a puzzled expression. Mother, why did that auntie run away? Didn't she want to take this baby as her disciple? Baby Emo said unhappily. If a lightning bolt can scare her away, then if she encounters a strong enemy in the future, she'll definitely abandon Little Furball and run away by herself first. Arbor nodded in full agreement, reaching out to stroke his son's head. Son, you're absolutely right. We can't have this kind of master. Amen. Baby Emo vigorously nodded his little head. Jojo turned to look at her husband, lifting her hand to shove her son over. Let's go home. Baby Emo climbed onto his father, reaching out to hug his father's neck as he asked, Daddy, did Grandpa Heavenly Tao's lightning bolt hurt you just now? Emo Lien was expressionless. I'll be thanking the heavens and earth when you stop causing trouble for your father. Little Furball pursed his little mouth. How is this causing trouble? Without Little Furball, Daddy and Mommy would have a lot less fun. His father chuckled. I have to thank you, ah. Baby Emo nodded in all seriousness. You're welcome, Daddy. You're my father. It's only right for me to be filial to you. Emo Lien. Lord Jojo suddenly burst into laughter. Father and son hurriedly turned to look at her. Your mother's smiling. Daddy, hurry, take out the image talisman array. My mother is really the most beautiful person in the world. She's so beautiful when she smiles. I want to preserve it. Emolian irritably slapped her son's butt. Scram. That was her wife. She still wanted to preserve it with the image talisman array. Dream on. Not letting anyone see it. The little dumpling angrily twisted his little body. Mother. Her mother turned a deaf ear to her words and ran off without saying a word. Mother ran away, quickly chase after her. The family of three chased each other out of the crowd. Suddenly someone whispered, Why does this kid look so familiar? He looks like the child of the couple in the bamboo garden. It can't be. The couple in the bamboo garden could be said to be one of the most beautiful people in the sacred region. Most importantly, they had a group of eye-catching handsome men and beautiful women with them. All of them were outstanding. Who didn't know about this? Oh, that's right. Why haven't those youngsters from the bamboo garden come to participate in the competition? Someone immediately chuckled and interrupted that person's guess. Is there a need to ask? They don't even care about the materials in the sacred palace. Think about it. What kind of place is the bamboo garden? Now everyone in the sanctuary knew about this. The bamboo garden is a place where resources are concentrated. The people in the bamboo garden are still selling materials every day. That's right. Why would they need to go to the sacred palace and go through so many hardships and dangers to obtain such a small amount of materials? Everyone was talking at once, and they all felt that their analysis was very reasonable. Letting out a long sigh, she looked up at the misty sky with a sorrowful expression. If they had the resources in hand, they naturally wouldn't need to go to the sacred palace and risk their lives. Chapter 56:17. The next morning, Xiao Tuanzi and Lord Guangguang were dressed neatly at the entrance of the bamboo garden. They looked at the group of uncles and aunties who came out of their rooms, and looked at each other. The two children were dressed in pure white robes, and had furry hats on their heads. Both of them had bags on their chests and backs. They looked like they were fleeing for their lives. Reverend Peach Blossom couldn't help but twitch his mouth. He coughed lightly and asked, "Children, where are you going?" "I heard that after today's competition, we will be heading to the sacred palace. We have prepared in advance, and can set off at any time." They were going to take an adventure as they wished. Lord Jojo came down from the bamboo house expressionlessly. With a wave of his hand, a series of golden talismans immediately concealed the bamboo building. During the time they were away, to prevent the bamboo house from being used by some shady people, they needed some special defensive measures. For example, they could hide the bamboo house and sprinkle fire poison around it. They could also set up layers of defensive barriers on top of the bamboo house. It was set up perfectly. Lord Jojo kept Wushuang and her son back into the star region. He then walked to the children who were carrying bags and said expressionlessly, "You are the only recommended candidate. You can't bring Guangguang with you." The two children hugged each other on the spot. Lord Guangguang grabbed baby Mo and shook his head like a rattle drum. He shouted, No, I want to live and die with Xiao Tuanzi. In the fire, in the fire, in the water, in the water." Everyone couldn't help but twitch their mouths. Looking at this little expression that was so good at singing and acting, it really made one speechless. "You should use your original body to follow Xiao Tuanzi." Lord Jojo ignored him and said, "You know that if you go against the heavens, you will be struck by lightning again. Anyway, Daddy is used to it." Everyone. Emolian glowered at Sir Guangguang, who had a loose tongue. "Say that again?" "Xiao Tuanzi. Wah. Lord Guangguang hurriedly hugged baby Mo. Baby Mo hugged him back and shouted, "When we reach the entrance of the sacred palace, let Guangguang change back." "No." The couple shook their heads at the same time. That stingy heavenly Tao finally put down a holy palace for people to go and retrieve some things. If you cheat at the entrance, you will definitely be kicked out. Baby Mo looked pitifully at Lord Guangguang. The latter was also looking at him eagerly. Emolian was speechless. It was just making the light congealing mirror return to its original form. It wasn't like it was leaving his son. Did these two little actors really have to put on such a show of life and death so early in the morning? "Hurry up!" Emolian shouted impatiently. After the light congealing mirror finished crying, it turned into a small handheld mirror and landed in Baby Mo's hand. The two bags that he was originally carrying also fell at Baby Mo's feet. Inhumane. Mo Bao wiped his eyes miserably and bent down to put the two big bags back on his body. As a result, this strange child hung 4 bundles from front to back, almost drowning himself. Lord Jojo silently twitched his mouth. "You can keep them back into your inner world first." "Mother, don't think of tricking me. Didn't you seal Xiao Tuanzi's inner world every time we went out for training? Lord Jojo. This time, it's different from the previous training. Mother won't seal your inner world. Chapter 56:18. The little girl's bright phoenix eyes widened as she looked at her mother suspiciously. She asked hesitantly, really? His mother nodded. Mother never lies to you. Little Furball thought for a while, and kept all 3 bags in his inner world, leaving only 1 bag on his arm. Everyone. Little Furball carried the bag on his back and floated out with his mother. Mother, Little Furball hasn't had breakfast yet. Don't you have steamed buns in your bag? Lord Jojo said in annoyance. That won't do. That's for after the training. Little Furball quickly floated to his mother's side. Mother. Arbor was speechless. He took out 2 roasted sweet potatoes and gave 1 to his son. Back then, I thought your Aunt Xian was stingy enough. I didn't expect that there would be another mountain higher than you. You're even stingier than her. Mo Baobao blinked and said modestly, it's all thanks to Mother's good teaching. Jojo. Mo Lian couldn't resist chortling. This little fellow had choked his mother to the point that she couldn't even speak. The family of 3 rushed to the arena. Little Furball mixed into the crowd and found Zhang Feng. Zhang Feng was also looking around. Seeing him come over, Zhang Feng was overjoyed. He smiled and picked him up. Little Furball, where's your little friend? Mo Baobao said pitifully. Sigh, the world is unpredictable. He hung the mirror in his hand on his waist. His entire person looked desolate as he raised his hand to touch the mirror. Zhang Feng was shocked. Could it be that your little friend is dead? Pei. Mo Baobao glared at him. Uncle, how can you curse Lord Guangguang? Zhang Feng quickly apologized. Sorry. He saw this little rascal's worried face and said that the world was unpredictable. Naturally, he thought of something bad. Mo Baobao pouted. He can't accompany me for a while. It's fine. Uncle Zhang will play with you when he's free. Uncle, if you make it to the top 200 today, then you'll follow the team to the sacred palace. The little guy snorted and deliberately whispered. And you said you'll play with me. Zhang Feng patted his head and said apologetically. That's right. How about this? When Uncle comes out of the sacred palace, I'll bring you a gift. Baby Mo blinked. All right, then I'll forgive you for not keeping your promise. Zhang Feng gave a simple and honest smile and nodded repeatedly. Then, he hurriedly went below the arena to choose his opponent. Today's matches had to be finished before noon, so each match was set to last for half an incense stick's time. There were more than 300 people participating in the competition, and they needed to eliminate more than 100 people before the competition could end. The setting was that within the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, no matter what method was used to defeat the opponent, the victory would be obtained. Therefore, the match was filled with the smell of gunpowder from the beginning. Everyone gave it their all, no longer holding back, throwing out all their trump cards. It had to be said that Zhang Feng's luck was pretty good. The person he was fighting against had been defeated by Mo Lian in 1 move, and had even been injured. After being eliminated, and then fighting with Zhang Feng naturally had the upper hand. The 200 matches from start to finish were hastily announced to end not long after noon. Master Dongfang walked up with a smile, holding a list of winners, and announced a string of names. Finally he said, there are 2 guaranteed spots. One is young Master Mo Xiaoma, and the other is this one. Chapter 56:19. Everyone looked at each other in dismay, not understanding what was going on. Master Dongfang Yu had recommended them to the sacred palace, so they naturally knew about it. Because it was like this every year, they didn't feel surprised. But who was that young Master Mo Xiao? He was nowhere to be seen during the competition. Now that he had been recommended, why was he still nowhere to be seen? A middle-aged man with a fat head, big ears, and a big belly stepped forward, shaking his head and asking, I wonder who this young Master Mo Xiao is. Master Dongfang Yu smiled, his gaze falling on the crowd. Everyone, there's no need to be curious. The most important thing now is for everyone to see if you have prepared enough medicine and defensive equipment. According to the usual practice, We will be teleported to the entrance of the sacred palace in about an hour. Everyone should prepare as soon as possible. What he said was true, but in fact, everyone didn't have much to prepare. What needed to be prepared had already been prepared. Who would still be busy preparing supplies at this crucial time? Their things were basically stuffed in their inner worlds or space rings. 200 people were now eagerly waiting for the arrival of the sacred palace. Zhang Feng was just about to put baby Emo down from his shoulder when he saw the little guy pointing to the front. "Uncle, go over there. Find my father and mother." Zhang Feng responded and walked forward a few steps, then suddenly stopped. At this time, there were only 200 people on the field. Zhang Feng saw a group of more than 30 young men and women gathered together. The little dumpling wailed, "Nyangqin, Nyangqin." A woman in snow-white clothes with an icy appearance turned her head and waved at the child. Zhang Feng was a little confused, muttering to himself, That's your mother? Why is she different from the last time I saw her?" Baby Emo giggled. "Last time my father and mother used a transformation talisman. It was to avoid trouble during the competition. Now that the effect of the talisman had passed, she naturally returned to her original appearance." Zhang Feng thought that was true. He had always heard people say that the group of people from the bamboo garden were all extremely outstanding. Now that he saw it, they really lived up to their reputation. Baby Emo floated down from Zhang Feng's shoulder and stretched out a small hand to pick up one of Zhang Feng's fingers. "Uncle, let's go." Zhang Feng followed over. He was still a little reserved, hurriedly greeting Emo Lien, Arbor and the rest. Everyone nodded in agreement. Emo Lien said with a smile, "My son has disturbed your excellency for several days. I'm really sorry." Zhang Feng hurriedly waved his hand, touched the back of his head and said, No. The little dumpling is very obedient. It's not troublesome at all." Baby Emo nodded repeatedly to express his agreement. At the side, a fat man with a big belly who was secretly sizing them up suddenly slapped his thigh and exclaimed, "Oh, I know. This child is the young Master Emo Xiao that Master Dongfang you mentioned. Wasn't the male master of the bamboo garden surnamed Emo? There was no doubt about it. Damn, this group of people really didn't even let go of the sacred palace. There were more than 30 people in a row. That meant that they had all signed up for the competition. He had even secretly changed into a human form, so that no one could recognize him. Now that the competition was over, he had finally revealed his true appearance. All of them were so sinister. They were aiming for the resources of the sacred palace. Someone couldn't help but murmur. Who said that the people of the bamboo garden didn't care about the resources of the sacred palace? Did the person who said this feel like he was being slapped in the face? This was the biggest joke in the world. Chapter 56:20. Everyone was speechless as they stared at Arbor's group in bewilderment. Fuck. These people really wanted to head to the Holy Palace and compete with them for resources and the legendary sacred beast egg. Someone couldn't help but muster the courage to say, "Aren't you guys still selling resources?" They had enough resources, yet they still wanted to compete with these pitiful people in the palace. It didn't make sense. Moreover, their group of 30-plus people was simply an oddity. Even the saint-level practitioners like them had formed several teams after the competition. However, they usually formed teams of 5 or 7 people. A team of 10 people was considered a large team. But did they have any shame at all for having 30-plus people in a team? Arbor glanced at everyone's expressions and knew what they were thinking. He couldn't be bothered to care what they were thinking. In any case, they had already obtained the right to enter the Holy Palace. So why bother with these mediocre people? They've already sold so many resources. Yet they're still greedy enough to want to go in and compete with us. Another person muttered quietly. Arbor abruptly turned his head and stared at him coldly. Say that again? Feng Changqing. And the others couldn't resist rubbing their foreheads. This was a sign that the little stoic was about to fly into a rage. It was dead silent all around. And no one spoke again. They were probably scared stiff by the little stoic's icy provocation. After a long time, no one uttered a word. Like a peacemaker, Master Dongfang hastily stepped forward to smooth things over. Everyone is equal before the holy palace. Resources are abundant, and everyone relies on their own abilities. No need to panic. After we enter the palace, we'll act separately. We naturally won't delay everyone's search for resources. Why didn't everyone make a move? They just didn't feel confident. A young man in his early 20s weakly raised his hand. I have a question. Madam Mo, is your team still accepting people? Everyone. You fucking spineless thing. You saw that there were so many people in the team, and that their prospects were obvious. So you wanted to follow them, and take advantage of them. Bah. What a shameless dog. Fortunately, that Madame Mo expressionlessly rejected him with a stoic face. Otherwise they also planned to join Madame Mo's team. In any case, taking in one was the same as taking in 2, 3, 10, or even 8. What right did they have to let 3 to 5 of them fight fiercely? Only a fool would refuse when they had the support of a large group. Sigh, what a pity. Everyone lamented in their hearts and glanced at the stoic face with self-reproach. The little stoic was baffled. It was as if these people were all sick, looking at her with a bitter expression. She didn't have any candy for them. Mother, when are we leaving? Baby Mo floated behind his mother's head and asked excitedly. I'm so happy. I'm going to go on an adventure with my parents. Would the sacred palace be fun? Would there be any ferocious beasts inside? If there is, I wonder if I can release Hun Dun and swallow it in one gulp. Recently, Hun Dun kept saying that he did not have enough to eat. This child was really pitiful. Baby Mo planned to let the little pitiful chaos out after entering the palace, so that it could take a breather and let out some fresh air. Don't let that little cutie die from holding it in for so long. If his uncles knew what Baby Mo was planning, they would definitely wish for nothing more than to go up and beat him up. What a super ferocious beast. Cutie my ass. Quickly look, it's the sacred palace, someone shouted excitedly. Chapter 56:21. Hearing the sound, everyone looked up only to see a palace standing tall in the vast white fog, like a feather, slowly sliding down, until the entire palace landed steadily on the ground. Click, 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 click sounds of gears turning, followed by a series of rumbling noises from within the palace walls in the distance. That palace was now in front of everyone. The palace door was closed, and the side doors were all tightly shut. An impatient brother ran forward a few steps, reaching out to push open the front door of the palace. However, his body stumbled forward a step, and his hand touched the air. Everyone roared with laughter. Master Dongfang smiled good-naturedly, shaking his head. Brother, don't be impatient. The palace you see in front of you is not real. We still have to wait for the heavenly axiom to teleport us to the real palace. Only when we meet up with the people from the north, west, and south can we enter the sacred palace together. Everyone smiled good-naturedly, and that man awkwardly raised his hand to touch his head. This was the first time he had won and entered the top 200, obtaining the qualification to train in the sacred palace, so he was a little impatient. After all, he had been in this broken sacred domain for almost 10 years, and there was always a vast expanse of white fog in front of him. Now that he could finally change the environment, how could he not be impatient? Brother Wang, don't be impatient, one of his companions in the team said with a smile. According to the usual practice, after we are teleported to the sacred palace, we can still have a sumptuous meal to use. This could also be considered a gift from the heavenly axiom, once a year in the sacred domain. This damned place where birds don't shit and chickens don't lay eggs. The heavenly axiom's annual feast could be considered a sumptuous reward for all the victors. Someone on the side added with a smile. The heavenly axiom's feast is really good. Master Dongfang raised his hand and pressed down. Everyone please be patient. Everyone's heart surged, and everyone stared at the sacred palace's phantom in front of them, rubbing their fists and palms, their blood and vigor high. As long as they thought of being able to enter this sacred palace immediately, and then obtain some good things for themselves, everyone's heart was filled with a layer of fire, and they were extremely happy. Arbor glanced at Master Dongfang beside him expressionlessly. How much longer do we have to wait? Master Dongfang smiled and said, They should be here soon. After he finished speaking, a teleportation light fell on everyone, and everyone's spirits were lifted. Not long after, the group of over 200 people disappeared from where they stood. A moment later, they landed on a meadow filled with fragrant grass. Except for the people in Arbor, everyone could not help but cheer. There were also people who were so excited that they rolled on the grass and touched the grass with their hands. Their eyes were filled with tears. Arbor. Baby Emo blinked his eyes. Do they have to be so agitated? Emolien coughed softly. You have to understand how others feel. Many people haven't seen grass for decades. Baby Emo thought that she was right. Every day, they could enjoy the blue sky, white clouds, green grass, or the sun, the beach, and the ocean. These people's real names were Bleak. Many of them had not left the sacred region for hundreds of years, let alone decades. Master Dongfang pointed to the side. Those are the people from the northern region. Master Dongfang and Master Dongfang were on good terms. When they saw them, they smiled and went forward to greet them. Brother Dongfang and the others have arrived. Young Master Emo, Madam Emo, hello. Chapter 56:22. Everyone greeted him and exchanged a few pleasantries. The Master of the North had always been on good terms with the Master of the East. At this moment, he brought a group of people to stand beside them. At this moment, there were still many practitioners rolling around on the grass. Baby Emo lay on his father's shoulder. His paralyzed little face was filled with a serious expression. Daddy, I feel that these people are sad and pitiful. Why do you say that? They're already so old, yet they're still so retarded. Baby Emo sighed and said, This sacred region is really not a place that people can stay in. Daddy, let's play for a while or go back. Emolien was amused and angry at the same time. She stretched out her finger and poked her son's forehead. Do you think that this is a place where you can come and go as you please? Let's greet Grandpa Heavenly Dao and ask him to let us out. Emolien really wanted to ask her son, what made you think that Heavenly Dao would be so easy to talk to? Just because you said you wanted to leave, would he let you go? This place is really too desolate. Baby Emo shook his head and said, Daddy, look. Those people are so happy even when they see the grass. If they enter the palace and see the lake or the ocean, wouldn't they go crazy? Emolien rubbed her son's head in amusement. In a blink of an eye, the people from the west and south also arrived one after another. On the grass field in front of the palace, there were now 808 people standing. They were jostling and pushing each other. It was a little noisy. The Master of the South was an incomparably enchanting woman. Half of her slender legs were bare, and her figure swayed gracefully. When she started to move, it was really frightening. The gazes of many men gathered on her body. When her small waist swayed, it really made people feel incomparably excited. The Master of the West smiled and went over. He raised his large palm and hugged the woman's waist. Nan, long time no see. I really missed you. The Master of the South giggled and twisted her body, knocking away the Master of the West's perverted hand. Get lost. You rotten old man. Don't think that I don't know that you've taken in 3 more beautiful concubines. The Western Master licked his lips and smiled. In the blink of an eye, he saw the Eastern Master and the Northern Master standing not too far away. He chuckled and walked over. He said with ill intentions, Brothers, we meet again. Hey, the 2 brothers have selected quite a few able-bodied men this time. The Western Master's gaze swept across everyone's faces. When it landed on Arbor's face, his eyes suddenly lit up. Miss, you don't look familiar. Are you new here? The Western Master took a few steps forward with a smile on his face, and one of his hands brushed Arbor's face maliciously. Little Emo Bao Bao, who was in his father's arms, immediately exploded. She pulled her 2 small hands together and shouted angrily, Guang Guang, whip him! A small mirror suddenly jumped out from his waist and rushed forward without any explanation. Pa! Pa! It smashed towards the Western Master's wretched face. Hey! The Master of the West didn't expect that a mirror would suddenly jump out and beat him up. He hurriedly stretched out his hands to block, but that demon mirror's speed was too fast. Without any explanation, it gave him that old face of his and hit him twice. The Master of the West simply couldn't stop its attack. Weakling, you still want to take liberties with my mother. I think you're courting death. The little kid roared fiercely with an expressionless face. For a moment the entire place was silent. Chapter 56:23. Holy shit. This seems a little explosive. They hadn't even entered the sacred palace yet. And the people from the western and eastern regions were already fighting. Whoa. The one who attacked was a child who hadn't even grown hair yet. Looking at the brat's arrogance, Master Dongfang just watched with a smile. He didn't say anything to stop him. Master Jojo glared at her husband. Her son had been led astray by her husband. He was like a moving volcano. Her husband was carrying this child. If he wanted to stop him, he would have done so long ago. It was all her husband's idea. He let his son stand up for him while he watched the show from the side. Emolian had an innocent look on her face. Master Dongfang put down his hands and hurriedly took out a bronze mirror from his inner world to look at himself. Then he roared angrily, come out, come out. Which villain dares to trick your father? Holy shit. His face was hit twice by a stupid mirror. Now his left cheek was swollen. What was even more hateful was that a small portion of his originally well-trimmed beard had been snapped off by the mirror. It was simply heartbreaking for him. Baby Emo kicked his two short legs. Daddy, this person spoke rudely to you. I'll kill him for you. Emolian's mouth twitched. She hurriedly reached out to hold down her funny son. This child probably took after his mother. He looked like a warmonger. Everything about him was like his mother. Of course, he only cursed in his heart. He didn't dare to say it out loud. If he said it out loud, he would definitely be beaten by his wife, Yi Yi Xiaoyi. Yes. The two of them shot out from behind the crowd. Yi Yi kicked Master Dongfang's lower body fiercely. Xiao Ye's fist was infused with holy power, aiming for his cheekbone. Master Dongfang was shocked. He hurriedly turned around to dodge. He waved his sleeves, trying to deflect the attack. However, these two people were extremely powerful. His casual sweep was simply too late to sweep away the two forces of energy that were pouncing towards him. The two forces of holy power rushed to his legs. Master Dongfang's knees immediately went soft. He was about to kneel on the ground. The Western master was shocked. He hurriedly raised his right hand and slammed it on the ground. He did a somersault in the air. But when his feet landed on the ground, they went limp and he almost fell to his knees. Ao Yi and Xiao Yi giggled. Their expressions turned solemn as they attacked the Western master again. The three of them immediately began a chaotic battle, flying back and forth on the large lawn, swords and sabers clashing. Everyone was dazzled, and they couldn't help but be speechless in their hearts. The Southern master giggled and couldn't help but tremble. I say, old Western master, why are you getting more and more backward? Why haven't you made any progress after a year of seclusion? Instead, you've regressed. From the looks of it, you can't even stabilize the early stage of the immortal venerable realm. Some people couldn't help whispering when they heard this. It can't be right. My cultivation level will regress? Hey, look at you little brats. Some of you are entering the sacred palace for the first time, so you don't understand. If you don't understand, I'll tell you. The Southern master let out a string of bell-like laughter. When the Western master was fighting with late night, his face instantly darkened. His entire face could not hide his ugly expression. Let me tell you, this sacred palace was really fun. After you enter, there's also the luck ranking. The higher the ranking, the luckier the person is. Last year, your Western master's points were -500, and he was ranked last. He was the unlucky one who ranked last in the sacred palace's trial. Chapter 56:24. Do you know the reason? Some people covered their mouths and snickered, while others looked at the Southern master in confusion, their faces begging for an explanation. Your Western master, it's because he accidentally ate some immortal herb while exploring the sacred palace. Oh my, it was bad then. The Southern master chuckled and covered his face with a handkerchief. Arbor felt that if the Southern master could walk out of the sacred palace, he might be able to become a storyteller in a tea house. She was actually quite good at telling stories. The Western master's face had long turned black. He glared at her fiercely and scolded, "Shut up. The southern master pursed his lips and raised his handkerchief to soothe his chest. Why are you so fierce? I just want to remind these little friends not to think that the sacred palace is a fun place. It's full of danger. If you're not careful and don't get any benefits, you might end up like Western Master. You accidentally ate an immortal herb, and your cultivation regressed. Is it true? Someone secretly asked the others. Seeing that a few seniors who entered the sacred palace every year nodded in unison, they became vigilant. The sacred palace was so deceitful. It was possible that they wouldn't get any benefits after entering, but would end up in big trouble. The Western Master's face turned green and black. Seeing the curious gazes around him, he was so angry that he laughed. What? You all want to challenge this old man? Even if my cultivation regresses to the early stage of the immortal supremacy realm, you're still no match for me. Everyone shook their heads in unison. Seeing that the Western Master was angry, they hurriedly took a few steps back. At this moment, the sacred palace's door creaked. Everyone turned their heads in unison and saw the towering pitch-black doors of the sacred palace moving by themselves despite the lack of wind. They were slowly being pushed inwards by a heavy force. Everyone's heart tightened, and they hurriedly moved forward. The people in the front row were the first to rush over. But before they could step on the steps, a few of them were sent flying by the force. The Eastern Master smiled and said, "Everyone, don't be anxious. Look at the road. You can't pass by the side. You can only take the path in the middle." When everyone heard Master Dongfang's explanation, they all looked up. Sure enough, from the first level to the far end of the stairs, there was a pine and cypress stone path that could only allow one person to pass. Everyone has a chance to go in, but you can't be impatient. Is that so? Everyone, hurry up and line up. Everyone rushed to the front of the line, but the people from the eastern region had already taken the initiative and lined up at the bottom of the steps. Young Master Mo, Madam Mo, please go ahead. Master Dongfang smiled politely. Mo Lian held the baby and nodded at his wife. Jojo did not decline. He lifted his small steps and walked towards the path in the middle. However, as soon as she stepped onto the first step, she felt a wave of pressure rushing towards her. Her entire body was pushed back by an invisible hand on her shoulder. Lady Jojo raised her other leg and stood firmly on the first step of the stairs. She frowned. Mo Lian and Master Dongfang also noticed that the situation was a little strange. Especially Master Dongfang. It was not his first time participating in the Sacred Palace's training. Naturally, he knew that the passage was not that big of a resistance. Chapter 56-25. But now, just by looking at Madame Mo's first step, the resistance she faced was quite strong. If it were anyone else, they would have been swept away by this tyrannical obstructive force. Only Madame Mo could still stand steadily on the first level at this moment, her eyes sweeping coldly in front of her. What? Everyone looked at each other and followed behind the group of people from the East region, anxiously craning their necks to look up. Arbor turned to look at Master Dongfang. You guys are like this in the past too? It took half a day to take a step? It wasn't that she couldn't walk up after half a day, but it was fine if everyone was like this. But obviously, looking at Master Dongfang's expression, it didn't seem so. Master Dongfang hurriedly shook his head. Madame Mo, there wasn't such a strong resistance when we walked through this passage in the past. Arbor sneered. That would mean that the heavenly Tao was targeting Lord Xiao Qiao. Master Dongfang watched the commotion from the side and chuckled delicately. Little girl, how about this? You come down first and let sister pass first. Scram. Master Dongfang, whose face was bruised and swollen, hurriedly waved his sleeves and put on a fake smile. The muscles on his face trembled slightly. If you can't, then come down. Don't waste everyone's time. I think it's better to let me open the path first. Arbor ignored everyone's chatter and took another step forward. She said expressionlessly, I'll count to 3. If you don't let Jojo pass, then we'll fight to the death. No one can think about passing. The 4 masters behind her looked at each other, not understanding who this Madame Mo was talking to. 1. Mo Lian hugged her son, the corners of her mouth twitching. Baby Emo shook the light congealing mirror in his hand, blinked and suddenly shouted, 2, 3. Emolien looked at the sky speechlessly. Arbor turned her hand and condensed a wave of water spirit power. A waterspout suddenly rushed into the sky, instantly scaring the group behind her. A faint shadow suddenly appeared on the stone path of pine and cypress. A short old man stomped his feet on the stairs, exasperatedly shouting, "You can't go in! You can't not enter! You just can't enter!" What a joke! If this little ancestor were to enter his sacred palace, would his sacred palace, which had been perfectly preserved for thousands of years, still exist? What was this guy's usual tactic? It was to refine the mystic realm. His sacred palace was still thinking of continuing to operate for a long time, okay? Grandpa Heavenly Tao, you're still so petty. Baby Emo pursed his lips and said, "If you won't let Mother enter, then let little Furball enter first." Scram, scram, scram. Tiandao roared furiously in Baby Mo's direction. How could he allow this little ancestor to enter? She was a little thing that was 10,000 times more evil than his parents. The Heavenly Tao then raised his hand and threw a thunderclap over. The expressionless Emolien silently raised a frying pan. Boom! Everyone saw the purple-red lightning bolt explode on top of the frying pan, producing a sizzling sound. The corner of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. The little old man formed by the Heavenly Tao jumped up and down the stairs. This scene petrified all the onlookers. Duan Yu couldn't resist silently turning his face away. Venerable Peach Blossom quickly used his sleeve to cover his face, pretending not to recognize the Emo family's father and son. Everyone finally understood what was going on. It turned out that Heavenly Tao disdained that family of 3 in the bamboo garden. Chapter 56-26. There was actually such a thing. The Heavenly Tao actually appeared and blocked the way, not allowing the bamboo garden family of 3 to enter. This was really unheard of. The Western Master, who was blooming with joy, chuckled as he stroked his beard. "How is it, little madam? Are you convinced now? Hurry up and come down. Don't waste everyone's time. Just because you can't, doesn't mean others can't." Lord Jojo turned around and retorted, "You can't, your whole family can't." The Western Master was speechless. Why did he feel that this sentence was extremely ear-piercing? The Western Master couldn't be bothered to continue talking to Arbor. He directly faced the Heavenly Tao and bowed respectfully. "Lord Heavenly Tao, time is limited. Since we have been teleported here, it means that the exploration has already begun. Now that this madam is blocking the way and not letting others pass, she is wasting everyone's time. I hope Lord Heavenly Tao can deal with it as soon as possible." The Heavenly Tao directly gave the Western Master a bolt of lightning. The Western Master was completely unlike Emolien, who frequently withstood lightning tribulations and remained unperturbed in the face of danger. He had long gotten used to being struck by lightning, and now, he carried his self-developed lightning-resistant frying pan everywhere he went. The Western Master was stunned by this bolt of lightning. Just as he was about to dodge, he realized that his body was bound by the power of the Heavenly Tao, and he couldn't escape at all. Just like that, under the watchful eyes of thousands of people, the clap of thunder directly exploded on top of his head. The Southern Master cried out in shock. He glanced over and saw that the Western Master's head had been blasted black. A black Mediterranean circle appeared above his head, and not a single blade of grass grew on his bald head. His face had been struck black by the lightning, leaving only the whites of his eyes. He faced the crowd, his eyelids trembling, and his eyes rolling back and forth in fear. The Heavenly Tao roared, "Audacious human! How dare you order me to do something? I want to deal with it, but I don't want to deal with it. How can I allow you to talk nonsense?" The Southern Master hurriedly lowered his body in fear and trepidation, putting on a respectful posture. "Lord Heavenly Tao, please forgive me. Lord Heavenly Tao, please forgive me." Everyone hurriedly followed her and bowed together. Arbor glanced at Heavenly Tao expressionlessly. "Stop showing off and let me pass." Tiandao was so angry that he was jumping up and down, waving his arms on the steps. You, little bastard. This old man has only tolerated you for the sake of your master and martial uncle. Don't think that this old man is afraid of you. Baby Emo suddenly started bawling. The light congealing mirror in his hand trembled as he hurriedly leaped up and rubbed it against Baby Mo's cheek, caressing it continuously. This cry frightened Heavenly Dao so much that his body suddenly trembled, his narrowed eyes suddenly turned round, and he roared shrilly, "What are you trying to do?" Sobbing, Baby Emo took out a Saint-grade golden talisman summoning talisman. "You scared this baby and mother. I'm going to summon Grand Master and Martial Grand Uncle to settle the score with you." The Heavenly Dao was so frightened that he staggered. He hurriedly stretched out a hand and shouted, "No!" Baby Emo turned to look at him with teary eyes. Tiandao hurriedly said, "Cold, calm down. Calm down. Put down the talisman in your hand. I'll let you pass." Everyone. Was there something wrong with their vision? The Heavenly Dao would actually compromise with a 4 or 5-year-old child. Illusion, it must be an illusion. "You're scaring me," Baby Emo cried out while sobbing. Tiandao's eyebrows twitched, revealing a kind and amiable expression. Chapter 56-27. He shook his face and comforted him. "Little dumpling, Grandpa Tiandao knows that you are a good kid, right?" Baby Emo nodded. "Put down the sacred grade golden talisman in your hand." The smile on Tiandao's face became even more amiable. "Everything can be discussed." "Ah, everything can be discussed. Cut the crap. Hurry up and get out of the way." Arbor grumbled in annoyance. Tiandao's face was bitter as he glanced at Sir Jojo. "Jojo, how about we make a deal? You can go in. All of you can go in. But shouldn't we be more or less the same?" Sir Jojo's little face was tense as he looked at him expressionlessly. A straightforward person does not resort to insinuations. Get straight to the point. Tiandao fantasized about rushing over and trampling on Sir Jojo right now to give him a good beating. "You little thing. I won't be calculative with you. I'll just let you defy the heavens all the way. I'll turn a blind eye to it until now. I still have to continue indulging your son. You still freaking want me to get straight to the point and talk about your granny's ancestors." Sir Jojo waved his little hand, and 100 sacred grade golden talisman summoning talismans appeared in the air. Tiandao at _ at Tiandao. Yen hashtag at hashtag. As long as you don't refine the sacred palace, you can do whatever you want with the rest. Tiandao stretched out a hand and roared in heartache. Then, he waved his hand, and immediately removed the barrier in front of Jojo. Jojo snorted. He waved his hand, and put away a bunch of summoning talismans. He said angrily, "What a waste of my time. After nagging for so long, couldn't he just let him pass earlier?" Daddy, we can go now, Daddy." Baby Emo lay on his father's shoulder, his little fist tugging on a strand of his father's long hair, as he commanded excitedly. Go, Daddy, go." Emo Lien walked up the stairs in annoyance. "You talk too much." Baby Emo puffed up his cheeks and fell silent with a pout. "What's wrong?" Emo Lien patted his small body. "I said that you talk too much and you're unhappy. Little Tuanzi doesn't talk much. Big brother is the talkative one." Emo Lien sighed softly and patted her son's head. "Your brother has chosen his own path. Shouldn't you give him your blessings?" Baby Emo pursed his lips. Emo Lien reached out to rub her son's little head and chuckled softly. "Everyone's path of growth is different. Since you've made a choice, you must continue walking it. Don't you think so, little dumpling?" Baby Emo nodded vigorously. The father and son stepped onto the platform and walked to the wide entrance of the divine palace. Mr. Jojo was standing in front of the gate of the majestic palace, as slender as a willow leaf swaying in the wind. She turned around and looked at the father and son expressionlessly. She roared, "Why are you so slow? Come here." Emo Lien carried his son and quickly ran to his wife. Before the others came up, he hurriedly bent down and stole a kiss on her little face. "Wife, you miss your husband. Mother misses little dumpling." Mr. Jojo patted her son's head and then patted her husband's head. The father and son were speechless. "Let's wait for someone to come and enter together." Emo Lien pulled his dear wife's little hand and carried his son with one hand as they walked a few steps forward. They saw a note hanging at the entrance of the palace. Palace door. 38,888 Jean. Gather the strength of the crowd, and knock it open to enter. Otherwise scram. Chapter 56:28. 38,888 caddies? The people who rushed to the door all revealed strange expressions at this time. They looked at each other and finally, someone couldn't help but howl. Lord Tiandao, aren't you too deceitful? Last year, the door was only 10,000 caddies. Why did it increase so much this year? You know very well how much it increased by. Tiandao thought angrily. If it weren't for you bastards who attracted those gods of plague here, he wouldn't have lost so much face just now. It's all your fault. Alright, stop talking nonsense. Let's work together to open the door. The Master of the North turned to look at the Master of the East. Brother Dongfang, let's go together? The Master of the East nodded and smiled. I will do my best. The Master of the South took a few steps forward with a smile, and turned to look at the Master of the West who was dawdling. Hey, old man. What are you dawdling for? Now is the time for you to show off. Don't tell me you want to fish in troubled waters and retreat. My cultivation has deteriorated. Aren't you all clear about it? With my little strength, forget about it. You guys go first. The Master of the South twisted her enchanting body and scolded. Not like a man. Then, she smiled and walked to the side of the Master of the East. She called out sweetly, Brother Dongfang, Brother Beifang, don't worry. I won't be a coward like that old man in the West. I will definitely advance and retreat with you. The Master of the East smiled awkwardly and thanked her. He took 2 steps towards the Master of the North, and pulled a small distance away from the Master of the South. However, the Master of the South acted as if she didn't see it and snuggled up to the Master of the East. Brother Dongfang, then let's start now. The Master of the East hurriedly dodged to the side, leaving the Master of the South to lean on empty space. He coughed lightly and turned to the East region cultivators, saying, Everyone, let's gather all our strength and try once. This time, the door is much heavier than last year. Everyone must not be careless. We must do our best. Yes. The Master of the South turned around and smiled enchantingly. This time, the door is close to 40,000 caddies. It's not a joke. Everyone only has 3 chances. If you can't push this door open 3 times, then you have to get lost. The cultivators who knew the rules naturally nodded in agreement. Those who were here for the first time and didn't know the rules also had grim expressions on their faces after asking others. What a joke. They had already come this far, so naturally they couldn't back down. Master Dongfang smiled and waved his sleeves. Everyone please. Master please. The crowd gathered their power and gathered their saint energy. The 3 masters took the lead and stood at the front of the crowd as they gathered their 3 powerful saint energies together. At the same time, hundreds of saint energies gathered behind him. The turbulent energy was like a tidal wave as it merged with the power of the 3 masters. He let out a furious roar that sounded like a tsunami and a thunderous roar as he smashed his way toward the palace door. After a deafening sound, everyone felt the ground under their feet shake slightly. A cloud of sand and dust seemed to have slid down the door of the palace. Taking a closer look, the door of the palace did not budge at all. Not even the slightest crack could be seen. Everyone's heart skipped a beat at the same time. They suddenly opened their eyes wide and involuntarily clenched their fists. Oh no, the heavenly Tao, this huge pit, is waiting here to ruthlessly pit everyone. Chapter 56:29. Sir Jojo expressionlessly glanced behind him. He only felt that this bunch of idiots' intelligence was a bit touching. Mommy, we can't go in? Baby Emo exclaimed excitedly. Emo Lian irritably poked his forehead. You're still rejoicing in our misfortune. That's not it, Baby Emo childishly replied. I wanted to ask Mommy if we should summon little Wonton and have it kick a hole in this door. No need. Arbor glanced at his son and casually drew in the air, producing a dazzling golden talisman. Grabbing the void talisman, Xiao Mu slapped it on herself. Then, she directly passed through that palace door and passed through it. Duan Yu, Supremacy Peach Blossom, and Feng Changqing hastily shuffled a few steps forward and speechlessly looked at the expressionless Emolien. Your wife abandoned you and ran off. Supremacy Peach Blossom teased. The little dumpling hastily reached out to hug his dad's neck and exclaimed, Daddy, quickly chase Mommy back. Hidden in the air, Heavenly Dao watching the show. Aha! He really wanted to thrash that brat to death. Heavenly Dao was so angry, so angry, so angry. How could that damn talisman of hers pass through his heaven and earth door? Ah, impossible, impossible, absolutely impossible. Sir Jojo passed through again, and expressionlessly glanced at Master Dongfang and his party, whose mouths were agape. If one had to describe Master Dongfang and his party with one emotion right now, it would absolutely be freaking seeing a ghost. Who exactly was this Madame Mo? Why could she enter and exit the sacred palace's entrance so easily and so freely without any effort? Ah, the little dumpling understands. Baby Mo's eyes brightened, and he hastily took out 2 talismans from his pocket and slapped one on himself and his dad. Daddy, let's go. With the baby in his arms, Emolien expressionlessly strode in with his long legs and directly passed through the hall's doors. In less than half a minute, he came back with the baby. His stoic-faced wifey turned back to glance at the father and son pair as she handed out God-rank wall-crossing talismans to the team members. Wait. Western Master, you saw that she had distributed the talismans to more than 30 people in the team. Even Eastern Master, you had received a talisman. He couldn't help but exclaim, why did you only give it to Eastern Master? Why didn't we? Arbor glared at him and shouted angrily, Who are you? Everyone was speechless. Who the hell are you? When your son beat up the Western Master just now, you didn't even know who he was. Master Dongfang held back his laughter and said, Western Master, don't be angry. Madame Mo, young Master Mo, and I are in the same team. Are you? Since you're not, how can you ask others to treat you the same? Look, this is foresight. He knew that following young Master Mo's group was definitely a good thing. Dongfang, you felt that it was worth it to use a small quota in exchange for the protection of a peer. The Southern Master rolled her eyes and giggled. It's fate that we meet. Madame Mo, do you want me to join your team too? Give me one of those talismans too. The Western Master glared angrily at the fence-sitter of the Southern Master. Do you have any fucking shame? What kind of lousy talisman is this? Look, you're completely bought over. Heavenly Dao was so angry that he almost vomited blood and died. He stomped his feet in the air and roared, How dare you cheat? Forget it. I'll reduce the weight of this door. You can try again. Chapter 56:30. What could he do? He couldn't possibly watch as a portion of them used the wall-passing talisman to slip away first, right? In that case, how unfair would it be to the remaining portion of people? Thinking of this, Tiandao couldn't help but shed a tear of sympathy for himself. He could only blame Arbor and the rest for coming to the sacred palace to join in the fun, making things so difficult for him. Lord Jojo passed through the palace door, and after 3 times in a row, Tiandao couldn't take it anymore and roared, What are you doing? Are you showing off that you can enter and exit the sacred palace freely? Bah! There's a huge pit behind. Arbor glanced at Tiandao expressionlessly. Are you trying to trick people? Digging a huge pit behind the palace door. Are you trying to make people jump in? What lousy palace. There was nothing inside. Just a huge sinkhole with a vast expanse of white on both sides. Tiandao chuckled at Lord Jojo. If you're blind, don't say that I'm tricking you. Emolien glanced at Tiandao, and the latter's entire body quivered, and he roared at Emolien. What are you trying to do? Stinking brat, could it be that you want to make a move on Tiandao? Wait, he went to take a look himself. Not even a second later, Tiandao flashed back with a puzzled expression and said to Arbor, Impossible. Entering the palace was indeed a huge sinkhole. What was going on? He didn't remember setting up such a huge pit. Take a closer look. Arbor glanced at him indifferently. Behind your sinkhole, there's a vast expanse of white fog. Don't trick people in. There might be nothing. Still looking for treasures. I reckon you don't even know what's going on inside. Arbor glanced at him mockingly. Isn't that right? Tiandao. Just you wait. The old man angrily waved his sleeve. The tightly shut palace door immediately opened from the inside with a creaking sound, revealing a vast expanse of fog inside. Everyone took a closer look, and there was indeed a huge sinkhole at the door, wide and bottomless. The Western Master was overjoyed. In the past, everyone had to work together to open the palace door. Unexpectedly, it was so smooth this year. The Heavenly Tao opened it for them on its own. Let me go down and take a look. The Western Master chuckled and wanted to dodge into the door. Unexpectedly, the Heavenly Tao jumped down from the sky and kicked him out. You want to fish in troubled waters? No way. Wait until this old man has a clear look. Then I will close the door for you. Heavenly Tao snorted and walked to the side of the sinkhole with his claws behind his back. He slowly moved and stared at the abyss below the sinkhole thoughtfully. Kid, what do you think is going on? I remember that this time last year, there wasn't a sinkhole. This is really strange. The old man lowered his head and looked at the sinkhole, studying it carefully. In the blink of an eye, he was kicked in the back. Caught off guard, the old man cried out in alarm and fell straight into the sinkhole. Lord Jojo raised his hand expressionlessly, and a defensive barrier appeared on the sinkhole. Immediately after, under everyone's gaze, this fellow completely sealed the sinkhole with a series of strange operations. Water, fire, earth, and spiritual power. Everyone was stunned and stared at the girl in front of them as if they were petrified. Lord Jojo clapped his hands and threw out hundreds of binding talismans expressionlessly. He threw them directly above the sinkhole, forming a powerful vortex binding array. Chapter 5631. At the same time, Emolien, Duan Yu, and the Venerable Peach Blossom Divinities group, who had a tacit understanding of each other, also ran up and directly piled up several layers of partition above the sinkhole, truly sealing the heavenly law inside the sinkhole. Keep! Sir Jojo took out the heart of misfortune and scooped up the sinkhole, under everyone's stupefied gazes. Then, he sealed it in the realm of misfortune. Only then did everyone realize that this wasn't some sinkhole. This was just something that looked like a sinkhole on the outside, but was actually a camouflage talisman array. Sir Jojo did all this in one go without any hesitation. After the matter was settled, she turned around and waved at Feng Chongqing and the others. Let's go! Master Dongfang was completely stunned by her actions. The other three masters' jaws almost dropped from shock. Master Dongfang suddenly realized that the person in front of him was the real ruthless person. She was a bastard who could trap the Heavenly Tao without even blinking. What else in this world could suppress her? Arbor turned to look at Master Dongfang and said kindly, Let's each find our own things and opportunities, understand? Everyone nodded like chicks pecking at rice. This ancestor, you don't have to point it out, okay? Everyone understood the reason. There definitely wouldn't be anyone who wasn't afraid of death and came to find trouble with you. After all, this person in front of them was a ruthless person who even the Heavenly Tao dared to capture alive. Everyone looked at Arbor with anticipation. Master Dongfang cowered in the back and didn't dare to show his head. Thinking of how he was beaten up by his son just now, he suddenly felt that the world was very beautiful. Oh God, he had just come back from the gates of hell, and suddenly realized that his series of actions just now was actually him constantly courting death. Courting death, right? Fortunately, these ruthless people didn't stoop to his level. Fortunately, Master Dongfang nudged Master Dongfang, who was standing in front of him. Tell us. Master Dongfang shuddered. She also saw clearly just now that this young madam joined forces with a group of people to trap the Heavenly Tao without any explanation now. The Heavenly Tao was sealed in a dark and swarthy ball by her. What kind of ball was this? It didn't look like an ordinary object. What could something that could store the Heavenly Tao and not come out for the time being be? She, the Master of the South, could not go against such a character, and she did not want to. The Western Master pushed her from behind, and she kicked him fiercely. She smiled awkwardly at Jojo, who was looking at her from the side. Arbor turned around and led his team away. Everywhere she passed, The flourishing green grass and green land was like a painting that was being pushed open, gently unfolding in front of her eyes. It was only then that the Western master and his men realized in horror. Just now, Madame Mo had used other illusions to turn the surroundings into a white fog. There was a fake heavenly pit talisman array in the middle. It was waiting here to trick the heavenly Dao fuck. This guy is really a ferocious guy. No one dared to speak any more nonsense. They hurriedly dispersed, pulling their own teams and jogging away. Arbor tossed the heart of misfortune in his hand and muttered to himself, "How long do you think we can hold him for?" "For hours." Duan Yu muttered. "What if I summon my master and Ant Master out now? Everyone." "Jojo, the heavenly Dao will probably cry if you trick it like this." Chapter 5632. Baby Mo grinned and clapped his little hands. Good, good. Find Marshal Granduncle and Grandmaster. Xiao Tuanzi wants to bring them out to play. Venerable Peach Blossom blinked and said, I think we should let Tian Dao off. Feng Zhangqing nodded. I think so too. In their opinion, Grandpa Tian Dao was really miserable. He offended this pair of mother and son just like that, and even had his face covered in blood. Anyway, our goal is to not let Tian Dao cause trouble. Now that we've reached our goal, let's set off first. Everyone nodded in unison. Master Dongfang recovered from his stupefied state and silently followed behind the group. This master was someone who even dared to cheat Tian Dao. Was there anything she didn't dare to do? At this time, Grandpa Tian Dao was so angry that he was stomping his feet and cursing in the sinkhole. He didn't expect that after tricking people all day long, he would be tricked by this little fellow to the point of vomiting blood. Was there anything more embarrassing than this? At this moment, the old man realized that there were several layers of binding talisman arrays around him. If he wanted to get out, he had to break these talisman arrays first. You little bastard. Grandpa Tian Dao cursed angrily. When I get out, let's see how I'll deal with you, little bastard. While this little bastard's martial parents and martial uncle couldn't rush over, he would catch her and beat her to death first. The old man is scolding me right now. Arbor pursed his lips and snorted. Jojo, did you hear that? No. Master Jojo fiddled with the vine in his hand. I'm not going to listen to his nonsense. Arbor ran 2 steps forward and pointed ahead. 9 Palace Illusion Talisman Array. Tian Dao was set up here. This was another trap. Unfortunately, Lady Xiqiao was able to recognize what sort of spirit formation it was with a single glance. Everyone couldn't help but chuckle. Master Dongfang took a few steps forward and looked around. Madame Mo, is there a way to break this talisman array? It won't be fun if it's broken. Arbor said seriously. The so-called dangerous place must have opportunities. There must be a lot of good stuff in this 9 Palaces illusion glyph formation. Baby Mo moved closer to his father's ear and muttered with a chuckle. Mother can't break the array. Mo Lien held back her laughter and nodded gently. After all, the heavenly Dao was not to be trifled with. The reason why he was subdued by the little fellow earlier was because he was not wary of her at all. Moreover, who would have known that the moment Jojo used the wall-passing talisman to enter the palace, he immediately created a sinkhole at the entrance. No one could keep up with Jojo's weird train of thought. Arbor walked to the front of the illusion rune array, drew and reveal rune in midair, and swept it out. The tranquil air before his eyes trembled for a while, and hundreds of talismans with a leisurely purple light suddenly appeared in midair. They flashed for an instant, and then disappeared in an instant. Let's go. Sir Jojo waved his small hand, and instructed everyone to quickly enter the array. The scenery before their eyes suddenly changed from spring and summer to midwinter. In front of them was a natural moat with high mountains and dangerous obstacles. The north wind whistled. Arbor was expressionless. He had already taken out a large fur coat from his inner world and wrapped himself in it. Looking back at everyone's thin spring clothes, he revealed an expression, as if he was looking at an idiot, and silently turned his head back. Daddy Little Dumpling isn't cold. Baby Mo, who was wrapped in the fur coat by Mo Lien, was like a small round ball, protesting in his arms. Chapter 56:33. Your mother thinks you're cold, Emolien said expressionlessly. The little dumpling glanced at his stoic mother and saw that she was looking at them. Emo Bao Bao immediately adjusted his facial expression and shot a pair of bright eyes towards his mother, giving her an extremely adorable smile. The little stoic instantly felt that her son was incomparably adorable. She pattered over and expressionlessly reached out to take the child from her husband's arms. Wife, the snow here is slippery. It's not easy to walk with this guy in your arms. Emolien pulled his wife to his side in passing and said with a grin, It's better for your husband to carry him. Sir Jojo winked at the father and son pair. Did you notice that there's a gravitational force binding this place? Right. I noticed it long ago. As soon as I was transported here, I felt my body become heavy, and I couldn't even lift my feet. Wu Jidao indignantly lashed out at his leg, but he couldn't move at all. On the side, little Tai Sui swept him a disdainful glance like he was looking at an idiot. He raised his hand and chopped off the withered vines coiled around his leg with a crack. That's because you idiots stepped on a demonic plant and got bound by it. Wu Jidao wordlessly lifted his leg. Sure enough, he could move freely now. The gravitational force is really strong. Can we still fly like this? As soon as he finished speaking, he saw Sir Jojo hanging in midair expressionlessly. Everyone. Wu Jidao, don't speak. You'll be slapped in the face as soon as you speak. Don't you feel any pain? Mother. Baby Emo hastily floated up and flew in front of his mother, swinging his small arms and legs. Mother, look. I also ate a flight pill. He really was a smart child. She didn't need to worry about him at all. Sir Jojo rubbed his son's small head and looked down at Wu Jidao's group. The formation core is probably up there. Fly up and take a look. This kind of saint-level flight pill can allow you to fly for 24 hours normally. But in this kind of high-gravity area, I'm afraid it can't last more than 2 hours. Look at how many flight pills you have left. There must be a camouflage here. From the looks of it, that mountain doesn't seem too far away. I estimate that it will take us 1 to 4 hours to fly there. Everyone checked the flight pills around them one by one, which ranged from 1 to dozens. Duan Yu silently glanced at everyone. 1 bottle. Divine Peach Blossom, and the others all glared at him. How much is 1 bottle? Don't tell me there are 100 pills in 1 bottle. Why do you have so many? You're eating them like candy, aren't you? Duan Yu looked at everyone innocently. Jojo's lotus gave it to me. Emolien. Jojo immediately turned to look at her husband. Emolien said expressionlessly. He snatched it in broad daylight. Venerable Peach Blossom turned around and stood in front of the two of them. She bit on her handkerchief and said angrily, I want it too. You two favor one and discriminate against the other. You bastards. Jojo silently looked at Emolien and took a step back. Baby Emo followed behind his mother's head and also flew back several steps. Emolien couldn't resist face-palming and threw a bottle at him. Scram. Scram further away. Didn't he see his wife's gaze? Master Dongfeng meekly raised his hand and stammered. And Madam Emo, I don't have a single pill. Sir Jojo was expressionless. He swept a glance at the noisy children and harumphed. Give everyone 3 pills. Save them. Chapter 56:34. She didn't have much either. This flying pill was made from the rainbow mushroom. It was very difficult for the rainbow mushroom to grow. In her star domain it grew very slowly due to the flow of time. Everyone rushed forward and shouted, Those who have a bottle in their hands, don't give it out. That's right. It's a waste to give it out. Shut up. Sir Jojo shouted. After giving out the flying pills, he pointed at Dao Wuji. You. Lead the way. Mata laughed and flew forward. I know. We need someone to lead the way. Sometimes in a row, sometimes in a column. Lu Yu also laughed. No one can lead the way better than Instructor Zhou Danjin. The expressionless Sir Jojo tried his best to keep a straight face. He turned around and laughed. Thinking of how he tricked Instructor Zhou back then, he felt that her group of friends were simply too much. Dao Wuji didn't understand the reason, and flew forward with a puzzled expression. What's wrong? Then I'll start flying. You all follow. Don't leave me alone. If some giant beast jumps out, do you think I should fight or not? Okay, stop talking nonsense. Hurry up. Little Taisui urged and rolled his eyes at him. The peony fairy couldn't help but giggle. Brother Dao, you have to be careful. Don't wake up any monsters on this mountain. When the time comes, you'll have to be the vanguard. As soon as she said this, everyone faintly heard a deafening roar coming from the top of the mountain. The group of people looked at each other in dismay. Don't jinx it. Everyone glared at the peony fairy and said in annoyance. The peony fairy didn't expect her lousy mouth to be so effective. She was stunned for a moment and quickly said, "Let's go and take a look." So what if there were sacred beasts hibernating on the mountain? They had so many people. At most, they couldn't beat them. If they couldn't beat them, they could just run. Everyone leaped up at the same time and followed Dao Wuji, who was leading the way, to the top of the mountain. Sure enough, Jojo was right. Looking at the extremely short mountain peak, after flying for more than 2 hours, they still didn't get any closer. We're almost there. Mo Lien held his wife's little hand and let the little one, baby Mo, float behind them. Feng Zhangqing and the others wanted to carry baby Mo several times, but the little guy waved his hand and refused. Feifei is healthier and more fun. Quick look. Isn't there a reinforced barrier on the mountain peak? Dao Wuji pointed ahead and asked. In the blink of an eye, a stream of light flew past him from behind. Boom! A loud sound rang out. The 2 Saint Power Pearls hit the front of the barrier with great precision, immediately tearing a gap in the oval-shaped barrier. Let's go. The little stoic pulled her husband and burrowed into that crack with a whoosh like 2 rays of light. Baby Mo also scurried over. Duan Yu, little Taisui, and the others also quickly followed. Everlasting Blade came back to his senses and couldn't help but curse. He quickly put away his dazed expression and called out, "Hey, wait for me." This bunch of bastards didn't even tell him that they were speeding up. When Master Dongfeng flew into that barrier with a whoosh, he turned around and saw that the open crack was barely closing. At this time, everyone was enveloped in an oval barrier. When he turned around, he was met with a pair of large eyes emitting orange light. Dao Wuji shouted, "Prepare for battle," and raised his hands defensively in front of his chest. Chapter 56-35. The giant beast in front of them was several feet tall, and its eyes were like a pair of deep holes. It stared at everyone, its gaze sweeping over them aggressively. The peony fairy, who was standing in the front row, silently took 2 steps back. However, a hand suddenly pressed against her back. "There's no place for you to retreat, sister." The peony fairy turned around and glared at Dao Wuji. That guy turned around and slammed the barrier behind him, shouting, "Pull back! Pull back your sister!" Ginkgo Fairy angrily slapped the back of his head twice. "Alright, stop fooling around, let's go together." Feng Zhangqing took out a sword from his conscience and flew up with his younger brother Feng Zhangfei. In front of the giant beast, the 2 of them were as small as shooting stars, gliding over with a whoosh. "Don't you think that this beast looks like a bear?" While speaking, the bear beast had already stretched out its thick palm and slapped towards the Feng brothers. The 2 brothers quickly slipped in front of the bear beast and nimbly flipped behind it. The 2 long swords stabbed at its back. Roar! The bear beast's body trembled and let out a roar. Its red eyes were unusually irritable as it shook its head. Baby Mo opened his small mouth and exclaimed, "What a big bear! Guang Guang, look, this is the biggest bear I've ever seen in my life." When everyone heard his words, they really couldn't help but want to ridicule him. "Baby, you've only grown up for 5 years. There's still a long way to go in this life. Who knows what kind of super giant beast you'll encounter in a few years." Guang Guang, quick, release little wonton. I think this big bear should be to his liking. While speaking, a giant beast with 6 legs and 4 wings, as red as fire, flew out of the light-congealing mirror with a whoosh. Baring its fangs and brandishing its claws, it immediately rushed towards the bear beast opposite it and pounced over with a roar. Bang! Bang! With a few loud tremors, the bear beast was knocked back by Hunden's attack. Its big orange eyes were shining with fear and panic at this time. Hun Dun, on the other hand, was very happy. It had finally been released, and now there was a delicacy in front of it. The beast felt that its life was very complete. The bear beast was obviously no match for Hun Dun. After being teased by Hun Dun's claws, there were a few more bloody wounds on its body. Lord Guangguang's loud voice rang in Hun Dun's ears. Eat if you want, don't make it so ugly and disgusting. Xiao Tuanzi is still here. Don't scare him. Hun Dun let out a roar and took a deep breath. The bear beast retreated in horror, but it couldn't resist the air current that was rushing towards it. He was forced to get closer and closer to chaos. Its eyes were wide open, trying its best to prevent itself from approaching the source of danger. However, the air current sucked up by chaos was abnormally turbulent, like a whale sucking in water, making it unable to resist. The bear beast was getting closer and closer to chaos. Everyone could not help but look up with narrowed eyes. A gust of wind blew, and everyone raised their hands to block in front of their eyes. Following that, an extremely strong gust of wind whirled past, and the bear beast was sucked into Hun Dun's suddenly opened mouth. Feng Zhangqing and the others couldn't help but feel their eyelids twitch slightly. This was the scene of Hun Dun swallowing the sacred beast at such a close distance. It was really a little shocking to watch. Oh, after Hun Dun swallowed the bear beast, it fell down due to exhaustion. It rolled on the ground twice. Chapter 56-36. This fellow's belly was bulging, and he looked like he had indigestion. He kicked his legs back and forth on the ground, looking pitifully in Arbor's direction. Arbor couldn't resist rolling his eyes. That's what you get for being greedy. She stuffed him with a bottle of medicinal liquid, and then expressionlessly had the condensing mirror recall Hun Dun. This fellow would probably stop eating for a while after swallowing a sacred beast. He wouldn't be able to digest it for at least 5 days. Baby Emo glanced at Hun Dun pitifully and sighed sadly. So miserable. He actually ate until he's full. Everyone was speechless and really wanted to roar at this brat. Wasn't it you who caused this? If you didn't let Hun Dun out, would things have ended up like this? But forget it, this brat didn't screw them over this time. Instead, he screwed over that sacred beast, which could be considered as helping them. After this sacred beast was dealt with, the barrier automatically disappeared. A patch of yellowish-brown vines appeared in front of them, and there were a few small dark blue flowers blooming in the center. It looked quite pretty. The little stoic wordlessly took out a storage talisman. With a wave of her sleeve, she stored large patches of vines into the storage talisman. Everyone ran up excitedly and surrounded Jojo, asking, Jojo, what's this good stuff? Man-eating vines, right? Venerable Peach Blossom Divinity asked with bright eyes. Should we also take some? Sir Jojo nodded expressionlessly. Everyone frantically harvested the vines on this mountain and threw those small blue flowers to the side. After Sir Jojo finished collecting large patches of yellowish-brown vines, he went up and took the small blue flowers that everyone threw out. Several large bouquets of small blue flowers bloomed in Sir Jojo's hands, complementing his snow-white face and making his skin of ice and bones of jade look extremely beautiful. Everyone immediately surrounded him again and asked one after another, Jojo, what flower is this? Is it useful? It's useless, right? Arbor swept them a glance. Seeing that Master Dongfang also ran to collect those blue flowers, she said, I think it looks quite pretty, so I plan to use it for flower arrangement. Everyone couldn't help but be speechless. Then what about the yellow vines? What's it for? It's useless. Arbor looked at them expressionlessly. I'm used to it. Divine Peach Blossom couldn't help but burst into laughter. Everyone simultaneously looked at him, before crowding around Emo Lien, and talking at once. Qiao Qiao's Lien, what does Qiao Qiao mean by this? Little Tai Sui rolled its eyes with a cold expression. Idiot. What she meant was that she liked to collect all these random things. It's her habit. Duan Yu turned his head with a smile, and happened to catch sight of Master Dongfang awkwardly clutching a handful of blue flowers. Dongfang Yuzhu glanced at the bouquet in his hand. It looked a little he didn't know if he should throw it away or not. In the end, it turned out that he had picked up a bunch of useless things. Everyone was stunned. Emolien coughed softly, trying not to laugh, and said in a low voice, "My wife has been collecting all kinds of supplies since she was 7 years old. He likes to pick up everything." Everyone glared at him. She turned around and saw Baby Mo's small body squatting there, trying to dig something on the ground. Venerable Peach Blossom couldn't resist facepalming. "Child, what are you doing?" Could it be that this child was digging soil? "You're much stingier than your mom. Your stoic mother is only picking up some useless vines and flowers. But you freaking dig soil. Is this how your family of 3 behaves?" Emolien was rendered speechless by everyone's glares. Chapter 56:37. He didn't know why, but every time it was his wife and son's fault. Everyone liked to glare at him. When they were too agitated, they would even chase after him to beat him up. Sometimes, Emolien would feel that he was especially wronged. Just like right now, his son wanted to dig dirt. What did it have to do with him? Why were these people all staring at him with those weird little eyes? It was very baffling. Baby Emo dug up a few big bags of dirt, tidying them up and hiding them in his storage talisman. He turned his head to take a look. Seeing that the group of uncles were all standing behind him, looking at him somewhat speechlessly, he put his storage talisman into his storage talisman. He looked at everyone with vigilant eyes and waved his little hand. "If you guys want it, you have to dig it up yourselves. I don't have it." The corner of Ji-chen's mouth twitched fiercely. He turned to look at Jojo. "Jojo, I think that little dumpling has already." Seeing Lord Jojo's chilly gaze, Ji-chen coughed lightly and continued, "He has completely learned Lotus stinginess." "You're very right." Lord Jojo nodded vigorously and sighed with emotion. This temperament is really too much like his father's. Sigh. Emolien. Baby Emo blinked his eyes and bounced to his mother's side. "Mother, do you think this 9-palace illusion talisman array will also trap other people in?" Jojo nodded. "Definitely. Then why haven't we met anyone else until now?" "Maybe the talisman array is too big," Arbor said unconcernedly. "Wrong." Baby Emo shook his finger calmly and mysteriously leaned close to his mother. "I think it should be this 9-palace illusion talisman array that has separated all of us. But maybe if you look from above, you can see that all of the people who came in are now going around in circles in this big array. But all of them are onlookers who can't see clearly. They definitely won't be able to see anyone else. For example, if I threw a punch." Baby Emo threw a punch forcefully and calmly withdrew his little fist. "You guys might think that I only hit air. But in reality, I might have already hit someone else." As soon as he finished speaking, the air in front of him moved slightly, and a wailing figure fell to the ground with a plop. Everyone hurriedly moved 2 steps away and gathered together, staring at the guy who had suddenly appeared with vigilance. That fellow was punched in the left eye by Baby Mo. At this time, he was lying on the ground with a big panda eye, wailing and groaning. Aren't you that guy from the western regions?" Dongfang Yuju's mouth twitched. He clearly felt that the person in front of him was somewhat familiar. Dao Wuji revealed a comical smile. "I suddenly feel that what this 5-year-old child said makes a lot of sense." Everyone was speechless. Why do I feel like my IQ is being crushed? Even a little kid could see the problem so clearly. Blame them for being stupid and not being able to understand the profoundness of this illusion glyph array. Dunzone went up and kicked. Sure enough, a figure was kicked out. Everyone did the same thing, punching and kicking the air. Many people cried out in surprise as they came out from beside them. Their faces were filled with confusion. What's going on? Didn't they part ways just now? Why did they return to Madame Mo's group in such a short time? Don't panic, Sir Jojo asked himself, and gave them a very friendly smile. However, this group of people didn't appreciate it. Their bodies trembled even more violently than before. Chapter 56:38. Master, Master, this is good, this body is good. Dun Jun ran forward excitedly, and reached out to touch a young man's body. The man's face turned green, and he glared at the perverted man who touched him. What are you doing? Master, what do you think of the body I picked? Dun Jun grabbed the young man, and turned to Arbor with a flattering smile. He had the wretched face of Shentian Prefecture's prefecture master, Gung Pingcheng, and when he smiled he revealed a mouthful of yellow teeth. The unlucky man who was grabbed by him had fear in his eyes. His body trembled involuntarily, and he screamed, "What are you doing? You, what are you trying to do? Let go of me." "Master," Dunju blinked before turning to say to Xiao Mu. "Master, I think this body is pretty good. It meets my standards." Arbor glanced at him and said slowly, "I remember you weren't so picky in the past. When you were in Shentian Prefecture, you didn't even care about Jing Minyao's body. Why did your requirements suddenly become higher here? You're so picky. If you're not satisfied with this, then don't want it. When I gave you that woman's body the day before yesterday, you were still wailing and howling and refusing." Dunjun's face froze. He grabbed the young man in his hand and poked his head with his finger. No, master, you can't cheat me. This body is good, change it for me." Arbor glanced at him. "Dream on, master. I said I would give you a better body, but the premise is that it's not possession. This person's life is not over yet, don't mess around." Arbor raised his chin and scolded impatiently. "Leave." Tunji pursed his lips and moved back in small steps, muttering something under his breath. The young man heaved a sigh of relief and got up. He cupped his hands and thanked Arbor. "Thank you, Madame Emo. Thank you, Madame Emo." This Madame Emo looked like she even dared to cheat the heavenly Tao, but in fact she should be a reasonable person. "If fate brought us together, we'll meet even if we're thousands of miles apart. Since we're so fated, why don't we go together?" Madame Emo nodded at them. The group of people from the sanctuary who had been beaten out of the formation pitifully shrank towards the center, almost sticking to each other. No matter how they looked at Madame Emo now, they felt that she was a little scary. Not only did the people from the sanctuary find Jojo strange, even Hu Jinshin and the others couldn't help but sneak a glance at Jojo. He felt that Jojo was very strange. Jojo never liked to meddle in other people's business. Why would he take the initiative to invite someone to go with him today? This is really strange. A middle-aged man with a big belly couldn't help but ask boldly, "And Madame Emo, do you have any instructions? If it's something we can do, we'll do our best." As soon as this person finished speaking, the others responded, "Yes." Their expressions were exceptionally serious. It was as if they didn't respond, they would be beaten up by Master Jojo in the next second. Their attitudes were especially sincere. "There is indeed something I need everyone's help with." Arbor turned and pointed straight ahead. "Do you see the barrier? I hope that everyone can work together to overcome this difficulty." "That's no problem. Yes. That's what we should do." Chapter 5639. May I ask, Madame Mo, how do you want us to work together? After the 9 Palace Illusionary Array is activated, 9 array cores will appear and create 9 different barriers. Sir Jojo looked amiable. "And every time we destroy a formation core, a barrier will appear." Xiaomu pointed ahead. "Thus, we will need everyone to work together to destroy it. Go! Everyone work together. Only by breaking this barrier can we enter the next array core." Realization dawned on everyone's faces, and they quickly nodded. "Okay, let's go together." The group of Saint Domain men rushed to the front and smashed the barrier with their fists. After a while, the big-bellied man turned to look, and his mouth couldn't help but twitch. He saw that Madame Mo and her friends were all standing at the side and didn't come forward to help. Instead, they stood a distance away and watched them smashing the barrier enthusiastically. Panting, this fellow asked, "And Madame Mo, why aren't you guys working together?" Sir Jojo shook his head expressionlessly. "I need to reevaluate. There are so many of you, and you spent nearly 10 minutes, but you couldn't even break through a crack in the barrier. I suspect that you guys can't do it at all." Emolien, Duan Yu, and the others. The group of men who were trying to break through the barrier all flushed with embarrassment. "If you can't break through this barrier in 5 minutes, the array core will be destroyed. The array core will probably be repaired." "What do you mean?" Everyone was stunned and quickly asked. "It's the sacred beast that we killed just now. It might come back to life. Master Dongfang. Fuck, how could they play like this? The big-bellied middle-aged man and his group didn't waste any more words with Arbor. They quickly turned around and smashed the barrier with all their might. It's open, it's open! It's open! Someone shouted excitedly. Madame Mo's screams were heard. Everyone get out of the way! Get down! Boom! She flicked a sacred energy bead at the barrier, and it directly blasted the hole in the barrier half the height of a person. Holding his wifey's hand, Emil Lien took the lead and flashed past, ducking out of the hole with a bend. Baby Emil hugged Duan Yu's thigh and called out childishly, "Godfather, Godfather!" Duan Yu picked him up, and also dashed out of the hole with the little fellow. When Divine Peach Blossom's group filed out, they felt a gust of wind and sand assault their faces, and they reflexively covered their faces with their sleeves. The big-bellied middle-aged man and his group fell to the ground in time when the Saint Power Orb exploded. At this moment, all of them raised their heads. Their faces were covered in dirt, and they couldn't help but pat their clothes. Xiao Mu stated coldly, "If you still don't come out, this barrier will close up again." Everyone took a closer look. Sure enough, the hole that was originally half a person's height had shrunk to 2/3 of its original size. The group scrambled out and ate a mouthful of sand as they were caught off guard. When they looked up, they saw a large wave of rolling sand in the sky. The yellow sand was so pervasive that they couldn't see the path ahead. The people from the holy region were about to cry. What was this situation again? Some people who had come to the holy palace before couldn't help but mutter inwardly. It wasn't like they hadn't come to this holy land of adventure before. Why did it feel like it was much more difficult than all the previous experiences? Cough, 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 cough. The big-bellied man coughed repeatedly while sprawled on the ground. And Madame Mo. Chapter 5640. Why? Cough, cough, cough. The Holy Power Pearl. The big-bellied man was exhausted after a round of fierce attacks on the barrier. His voice was weak. The Holy Power Pearl. You had the Holy Power Pearl, but you didn't use it before, and only used it after they tore the barrier apart. Aren't you cheating us? Xiaomu swept them an indifferent glance before giving a rare explanation. If you don't tear a hole in the barrier, you absolutely won't be able to use the sacred energy bead to enlarge its damage area. After all, there had to be an opening to completely tear it apart. It wasn't that Sir Jojo wanted to cheat them. The group of people from the sanctuary lay on the ground and couldn't help but roll their eyes. They said they would work together, but in fact, they were the ones who worked hard. The so-called hand-in-hand meant that you lost a Saint Power Orb after the incident and picked it up effortlessly. Arbor asked gently, "Do you have any objections?" The group shook their heads and said in unison, "No objections, no objections." It was not as if they had lost their minds. Why would they dare to have any opinions about her? Even if they were dissatisfied, they didn't dare to show it. "It's great that you have no objections." Arbor nodded and said to them, "There are still 8 more barriers, and we need to work hard together." She stretched out her little fist and encouraged the group of people from the sanctuary. Feng Zhangfei couldn't hold it in and burst out laughing, hurriedly turning his face away. Arbor was expressionless and stretched out her little fist again. "Work hard." "Yes, work hard." The people from the sanctuary twitched their mouths and forced a bitter smile. The big-bellied man stood up and wiped his forehead with sweat. He stammered, "I don't know if it's just my imagination, but I feel that the Sacred Palace trial this time is a little difficult." "It's more than a little difficult." Another person couldn't help but complain. If the previous trial was a level 3 difficulty, this time it's definitely a level 10 difficulty. If Dark Phoenix and Against the Sky were here, they would definitely pat their little disciple's head and tell her with a smile, "Disciple, you're lucky that the Heavenly Axiom gave you a Hell mode trial. Others used to be in the easy mode, but you directly skipped the normal and elite modes and went straight to the Hell mode." Sir Jojo tilted his head and looked at the people from the sanctuary. "Is what you said true? What was the situation like in the past? Tell me about it if you know." Madame Mo, a young lady, said, "You really don't know. In the past, Training in the sacred palace was definitely not that difficult. We don't need to go through the 9 palaces illusion formation at all. After everyone came in, the most they would do was fight and snatch things. I've never experienced such a simulated training environment, where we have to travel across mountains and rivers, and wind and sand billow. It was too difficult for them. Or could it be that the previous experience mode was actually too simplistic? Sir Jojo's mouth twitched unhappily, and he said to everyone expressionlessly, "Wait for me." She took out a golden summoning talisman and flicked it with her finger, calling out, "Master, Uncle Master, anyone come quickly." In the blink of an eye, a condensed shadow appeared above the sand-filled sky. It gradually formed into a human figure. With a swoosh, a beautiful woman in red clothes suddenly appeared in front of everyone. Sir Jojo threw himself into the arms of the woman in red. "Uncle Master, help me." Chapter 5641. Qin Nitian blinked and looked around before patting his little martial nephew's head. "Where's Heavenly Law? Where's that Heavenly Law fellow?" Heavenly Law, that shameless old thing, was bullying his martial nephew again. That fellow was simply tired of living. "You brat, come here." Nitian hooked his finger at Duanyu, who was standing at the side. The latter's mouth twitched, and he took small steps forward and bowed respectfully. "Greetings to Uncle Master Qin. Good boy." Qin Nitian nodded his head solemnly. He stretched out his 2 arms, and suddenly snatched baby Emo away. The 2 of them looked at each other, grinning so widely that one could see their teeth. "Uncle Master, I am my good grandson. You've grown quite a bit after not seeing you for so long. Hurry and let Uncle Master take a look, hee. Where's that old fart Heavenly Law? Is he making things difficult for you too? Don't panic. Uncle Master will beat him up for you. That shameless old fellow, he's already so old, but he's still bullying a child. Simply shameless." Everyone almost didn't look at her. This woman in red looked to be in her early 20s, but no one knew her actual age. But since Madame Emo called her Uncle Master, then she was definitely a 1,000-year-old demon. This Madame Emo herself didn't look old, but who knew? With such a high cultivation base, he might even be 100 years old. Nowadays, old seniors all like to pretend to be young, so who knew their true age? Qin Nitian, the 1,000-year-old monster, surveyed the surroundings. Who are these people? Why did they all look so repulsive? He glanced at the group of young people behind his martial nephew. These were more pleasing to the eye. Uncle Master, these are our friends from the Holy Region." The little stoic introduced them, and then tugged at Qin Nitian's sleeve. Uncle Master, you have to help me. Heavenly Law, that old thing, is up to mischief again." In the past, this Holy Palace trial was only level 3 difficulty. Now that I'm here, Heavenly Law purposely activated level 10 difficulty trial mode to block me. Then isn't it activating hell mode? Against the Sky understood immediately. He blinked his eyes and hugged the baby with one hand, his face full of anger. "Speak, child. Where is that old ghost now?" She had just used her spiritual power to scan the area, but there was no Heavenly Dao nearby. She must have tricked her martial nephew, and then dug a hole to hide herself. "Martial uncle, I trapped that old guy in the binding talisman formation, and threw him into the realm of misfortune." Qin Nitian's mouth twitched. In that case, this old fellow had already been tricked by his martial nephew? But I can only trap him for 4 hours. Previously, in order to destroy the first barrier of the 9 palaces illusion glyph array, I already spent a lot of time. I'm worried that after this old ghost comes out, he will definitely continue to cause trouble. It's increasing the difficulty of my training. Qin Nitian nodded. "All right, then send Senior Uncle in." Martial Uncle went to look for him, to have a chat him up. "I will definitely convince him on your behalf, and let him happily for mercy to reduce the difficulty of the experiential learning." "Okay." Arbor nodded cheerfully, revealing a rare grin. "Then Senior Uncle, I will send you over now." Everyone present stood there in absolute silence. They looked at each other and silently shut their mouths. Chapter 5642. Their instincts told them that it was best not to speak at this time. They felt that this Madame Emo must have done something strange to the heavenly law. If they dared to nag, they would definitely be scolded. Madame Emo, young Master Emo, what should we do now? Continue forward. Dao Wuji waved his hand. Didn't you hear Jojo? There are still 8 barriers ahead. We must do our best and work together. The people of the Holy Domain had the urge to cry. They really wanted to ask if they could split up. However, the little stoic waved her hand, and Feng Zhangfei and his buddies patted around again. Sure enough, several figures popped out from the distorted space. Everyone work hard. Dao Wuji grinned at everyone. Don't panic. As long as we break the 8 barriers, we can leave the array. The people of the Holy Domain already had no energy to complain. So be it. Fight to the best of your ability. After Arbor sent Uncle Master to the realm of misfortune, he didn't say a word to the people of the Holy Domain. Let's go. Little Tai Sui expressionlessly turned around and walked forward. The people of the Holy Domain hurriedly took out long towels from their inner worlds and wrapped their heads up. They looked up and saw that young Master Mo's bony hand, holding a small bamboo umbrella. His other hand held Madame Mo's hand, and walked very leisurely at the front of the group. The rolling sand couldn't do anything to the two of them. The flying sand and pebbles were all blocked by the umbrella. The people of the Holy Domain couldn't help but cry. In order to not waste sacred power to open a defensive barrier to block the wind and sand, they could only wrap themselves up with long towels, leaving only their eyes exposed. Now that they saw young Master Mo and his wife strolling in a peach garden, they instantly felt extremely sullen. There was no harm without comparison. Compared to them, they were really full of wounds. They couldn't afford to be hurt. Everyone sighed and lowered their heads, as if they were at a funeral. They followed at the back of the group, and dragged their heavy steps forward. Arbor glanced back and shouted in a clear voice, "Follow the group." Ao Yi and his group immediately added, "Not afraid of danger." If Arbor said, "Speed up," Ao Yi and his group would definitely reply loudly, "Never give up." Everyone from the sanctuary couldn't help but twitch their eyebrows. Where did this amusing team come from? Why was their conversation so hilarious? Third young Master Fu could not help but sigh softly. Young Master Rong has trained her well. Back then, on that snowy island, the members of the Heavenly Fate Organization had trained day and night to kill the members of the Heavenly Fate Organization. Do you see that? There seems to be a lot of dining tables in front. Yes, yes. Someone shouted excitedly. Oh my God, I saw the roast duck, sausages and roast chicken. Oh, am I dreaming? This time, Arbor did not need to tell them to speed up. The people of Sanctuary rolled and crawled forward, running crookedly in the wind and sand, with happy smiles on their faces. Arbor looked ahead blankly. Sand and dust billowed, but there was nothing left. Hey you guys. Arbor produced a vine whip from his sleeve, binding 4 or 5 saints. The others were stopped by Feng Chongqing and the others. Only one person crazily pushed away the little Taisui's hand, laughed loudly, and rushed forward like a madman. Chicken, duck, fish. Oh, what a sumptuous dinner. That person rushed over with a happy face. Then there was a scream. Chapter 5643. In the blink of an eye, this person's figure was drowned in the sandstorm. Several people from the Holy Domain shook themselves awake and stammered. He fell in? He had indeed fallen in. Xiaomu raised her eyebrows slightly, and she led the group forward a few steps before stopping. There was a circular pit in front of them that was bottomless. That unlucky guy just fell in with a splash, and didn't seem to make a splash. The big-bellied man couldn't resist exclaiming, "How is that possible? That brother just now was a mid-stage spiritual venerable realm cultivator at the very least. How could he fall into this deep pit and not make a sound at all?" Everyone also found it very strange. That's right. How could that be possible? That wasn't some weak ordinary person, or a low-level cultivator with an extremely low cultivation. If he fell into the pit, wouldn't he fly out on his own? Or would he directly fall to his death? That was simply the biggest joke in the world. Xiaomu was pacing around the pit, when she heard a cry of surprise from the crowd. One of the unlucky fellows was pushed by the people behind him and stumbled into the pit. The man let out a blood-curdling scream and fell down. It was so fast that everyone was stunned. In the blink of an eye, a vine shot out from Arbor's sleeve and abruptly wrapped around that person's ankle. Ah! That person struggled with all his might. Xiaomu creased her brows slightly, and her feet shuffled forward half an inch. However, Emolian suddenly grasped her waist. A huge suction force caused the couple's expressions to change. Baby Emo flapped his tiny arms and legs, and exclaimed while hanging in Duan Yu's arms. Wow, this uncle got pulled down. He can't get up. So unlucky. How could there be such an unlucky thing? Everyone. If this child didn't speak in such a gloating tone, it wouldn't be so hilarious. Mother, little furball will help you. Baby Emo shouted. But before he could move, Duan Yu pressed his tiny body down. The latter said exasperatedly, All right, don't cause trouble for Mother. No, Mother can't hold on to Uncle anymore. Foster father, Xiao Tuanzi also has a vine that can help pull it. Everyone come and help. Didn't you guys pack a lot of yellowish-brown vines before? Pull them all together. The more people there are, the more strength there is. Feng Zhangqing and the others were originally worried about how to drag him down. Could it be that she had to rush over and hug Emolian? Then, they had to carry and drag her one by one? How inappropriate. Now that he was reminded by Xiao Tuanzi, he was suddenly enlightened. They hurriedly took out a large chunk of yellowish-brown vines from their inner worlds and whooshed toward the unlucky Saint Domain bastard hanging at the entrance of the cave. Exerting their strength together, the man was immediately dragged out of the cave entrance. Everyone hurriedly retreated in all directions, allowing the man to be tied up and fall to the ground with a loud thud. The man panted heavily and immediately got up without even caring about the pain. He cupped his hands and thanked the people around him. Many thanks. Many thanks to everyone for your help in the face of death. I am eternally grateful. This one is he weeping. If there is a chance, I will definitely repay everyone's kindness. The big-bellied man wiped his sweat and waved his hand. Madam Emo, and the rest still put in the most effort. But speaking of which, these vines are quite sturdy. They can actually pull someone out of the cave entrance with such a strong suction force? Arbor tugged hard at the yellowish-brown vines in his hands. Chapter 56-44. Indeed, after her son made such a fuss, she also reacted. At first, when she used the holy wood to grab He Wei Ping, even she was pulled forward by the suction force at the bottom of the hole. Afterwards, if it weren't for Emolian pressing her waist in time, she probably would have also involuntarily fallen into the bottomless pit along with that dragging force. He Wei Ping's body was wrapped by the yellow vines later, and the resistance gradually stopped. They were able to pull He Wei Ping out of the hole, but it wasn't entirely because they worked together. It was because of this yellow vine. Arbor looked down at the yellow vine in his hand. Suddenly, he kicked a stone and catapulted it over. The stone slid to the bottom of the hole with a whoosh, and the yellow vine in Arbor's hand suddenly wrapped around the stone. With a light shake of his wrist, he pulled it back from the ground. It seems that below is where the second barrier is. Arbor snorted softly. That old ghost heavenly axiom. One moment it made them go up the mountain, and the next moment it made them go down the hole. He didn't know if there was a mountain of knives and a sea of fire waiting for them behind. He summoned his martial uncle to talk about life with the old man. So it didn't seem to be a particularly bad thing. After all, he had been viciously cheated by heavenly axiom several times along the way, and it really didn't make sense if he didn't get back at it. Arbor snorted and lightly jumped on the spot. Everyone, take out all the yellow vines that you collected before. Arbor took out a large mass of vines from the storage talisman, combed them, connected them with the holy wood, and weaved them one by one into a rope. Everyone followed suit and helped to comb and weave the vines, their movements swift. Soon, the large mass of yellow vines was completely woven. I'm afraid we can only climb down from here, Arbor said with a serious face. I'm afraid that this bottomless hole has been blocked from all kinds of flying abilities. Probably even things like flying talismans couldn't be used. With heavenly axioms nature, it was very likely that this was the case. Xiaomu also couldn't be bothered to argue with heavenly law. Since she found a way to descend, then she would obediently climb the rope and descend. Otherwise, it would be very bad if she got pulled down halfway and became paralyzed from the fall. Will this thing work? Feng Zhangqing said weakly. Will it not be long enough? That's right. This bottomless pit looked bottomless. It really made people feel uneasy. Everyone looked at each other and looked at Madame Emo hesitantly. Don't worry. I won't cheat you, Madame Emo said to them. However, everyone present felt an inexplicable twitch in their hearts. When they heard this, they felt uneasy. It wasn't the first time Madame Emo had tricked someone. This young madam was someone who could even trick the heavenly Tao, let alone them. Not at all, not at all. You have to go down even if you're worried, Madame Emo said expressionlessly. Aren't you going down? If not, he would stay here. Don't blame me for not warning you. Although we've opened the first barrier of the 9 Palaces illusion formation once, it's still not enough. But you also know that it's closed now. Previously, we had to work together for half a day to open it. If we were left alone, the consequences would be self-evident. Everyone couldn't help but shudder. If they were left alone, would they have to break through the barrier alone? Damn, his balls hurt. Everyone hastened their movements, quickly inspecting the rope made of yellow vines. Chapter 5645. Alright, I'll go first. Dao Wuji volunteered to hop over and tug at that yellow vine rope, before turning back to chuckle mischievously at Arbor's group. This yellow vine rope was quite well woven, and was very firm to the touch. Presumably, it wouldn't be difficult for him to descend to the underground cave. It was fine as long as he didn't cause any trouble along the way. As Dao Wuji thought this, his heroism got the better of him, and he patted his chest hard. I'm going now. Remember to tie the rope tightly. After saying that, he tied one end of the yellow vine around his waist and tugged at it twice. Seeing that there was no problem, he walked towards the entrance of the cave. Arbor tossed out 2 seeds, which instantly sprouted 2 large trees from the ground. Everyone couldn't help but gasp in amazement at how adept he was at it. After all, no one could use the power of the wood spirit so adeptly. The more they interacted with this Madame Emo, the more surprised they felt. Arbor tossed the yellow vine onto the tree trunk and circled it twice to stabilize it. Everyone then tugged at the other end of the yellow vine and carefully lowered Dao Wuji, bit by bit in unison. How is it? Arbor asked. You're right. There's no longer that suction force. This yellow vine can effectively avoid that suction force, so it should be used to descend this underground cave. Seems like it's not a bad thing to like picking up trash, Sir Jojo muttered softly. Emo Lien naturally heard it immediately. She held back her urge to burst out laughing and nodded repeatedly. She reached out to stroke her wife's head. My Jojo is especially smart. You're one step ahead of others in everything you think of. Our dear baby Mo, who surpassed his master in picking up trash, lay in Duan Yu's arms and harumphed at his dad. Daddy was shameless and praised Mommy so smoothly. It was obvious that he was used to flattering her normally. His dad merely pretended not to hear his son's harumph, and continued to hold his wife's hand with a grin. He glanced at everyone who was currently lowering the yellow vine and hanging Dao Wuji down the cave entrance. Dao Wuji yelled from time to time, faster. Fuck, be more steady, don't be so fast. Hey, we're almost at the bottom. His voice became more and more distant, as if it was coming through layers of mountain fog. In the end, it became somewhat unclear. Is the yellow vine rope enough? Feng Zhangqing asked with a frown. Enough, it should be enough. There are still a few laps that haven't been used yet. The big-bellied man quickly said. It looks like it's almost the end. We can prepare for the next person. I'll do it. Little Tai Sui strode over with its head held high and chest puffed out. However, Venerable Peach Blossom pulled it back with one hand. Little Tai Sui immediately glared at Venerable Peach Blossom, its gaze seeming to want to eat Venerable Peach Blossom. Let go. Audacious. How dare you pull this seat? Venerable Peach Blossom rolled his eyes and said, "It's not like this is the first time you've pulled me apart. All right, let Feng Changqing and the others go first. You bring up the rear." Little Tai Sui held back for a long time before finally uttering, "How preposterous." They were looking down on his small stature, so they wanted Feng Zhangqing and the others, who were taller, to go first. Feng Zhangqing nodded, and didn't care about little Tai Sui's dissatisfaction. He walked past him, pulled on the rope, and climbed down the cave entrance. At this time, Dao Wuji's roar could be heard faintly from below, but it really couldn't be heard clearly. But at least they could hear the word "here." Clearly, Dao Wuji had already stepped onto the ground at the bottom of the cave. Feng Zhangqing sped down. Not long after, everyone filed forward. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.